1 minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the place yet not overly ostentatious studios of CBS Sports Radio here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to a Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local CBS Sports Radio affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming on YouTube. 855-212-4CBS is the number to jump on in, 855-212-4227, and you could always get at me on the good old cesspool of Twitter and on Instagram, where I'm always straight flexing at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Coming up 20 minutes from now, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, friend of the show, Bryant McFadden will stop by. At the top of the hour, Dunne will join us after his incredible piece yesterday, pointing out the flaws of Sean McDermott as the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. And then in the final hour of the show, we'll do a little NFL picks with Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight via BetQL. Got Carlos with the K, rocking and rolling with us. Also, Moist Mike with an M. And I got Zach Gelb, yours truly, with the Z, all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Okay. I'm starting the show today shocked. The Pittsburgh Steelers. What are we doing? Last week, all right, you drop a game to Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. Not a good look. You had those two crazy weather delays. James Conner coming back home, punches you in the mouth, and you lose that game. Now, you knew going into last night, you were starting Mitch Trubisky. You know that Mitch Trubisky is not an effective quarterback, really ever in his career or in the year of 2023. But still, with that being said, the Patriots are starting Bailey Zappi with basically no wide receivers. Like when Juju Smith-Schuster, it could be argued as your best wide receiver in this day and age of football. This is not Juju Smith-Schuster from 2017 or 2018. Like, this is Juju Smith-Schuster in the year of 2023. So when you go through the Pittsburgh Steelers-Patriot matchup, everyone had the same take. Low scoring, going to be ugly, going to be sloppy. It's going to be a game that you don't want to watch, but we're all pigs and addicted to football, so we will watch the football, of course. And you thought the Steelers would win by a slim margin. Like, Santa looked at me yesterday like I had 9,000 heads when I said Steelers are scoring 14 points and the Patriots are scoring 3. He's like, that's way too many points in the game. And somehow, some way, the over did hit. And somehow, some way, Zach Gelb not very happy while watching that game on Thursday Night Football, even though I am a Patriot fan. And you would think, oh, Zach should be happy that they won. I want them to lose every single game because I'm all about the tank. Like one of my friends last night, he goes to me, oh, you're fired up, they won. He's also a Patriot fan. And I'm like, no, you dummy. Why are you pumped up? I know it's conflicting emotion. I know it's not good. I know you want your team to always win. But when you're this bad and you have 2 lousy wins on the season, I don't want a 3rd win. But that's what ended up happening with the New England Patriots last night. And watch, Carolina will win this weekend, and it will frustrate me even more because it would have been better if the Patriots just would have lost. So from that game, maybe we will talk more about the future of Bill Belichick. I know Bailey Zappi played well, but I don't think anyone's about to say let the Zappi hour continue and have him be the quarterback next year for the New England Patriots. But the conversation goes back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think we now need to have an honest conversation about Mike Tomlin. And let me start off by saying I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers should consider trading Mike Tomlin this offseason. At least take some phone calls. He's been the coach there since 2007. He's one of the best coaches in football. He's never had a below 500 season. He's been to 2 Super Bowls and has won 1. But sometimes it's just time to move, or at least think about moving in a different direction instead of just keeping a coach to keep a coach. And notice, I'm very particular in my words. I did not say fire Mike Tomlin, because I think that would be one of the dumbest things an organization could do. Because you get rid of Mike Tomlin, especially with upwards of 10 jobs potentially being open this year, you will have Mike Tomlin getting a job in less than 24 hours if he wants of his firing. So I don't think you should fire Mike Tomlin because Mike Tomlin is still a very good option. And even though he's one of the top 5 coaches in football, we all have to acknowledge that this is a man that hasn't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. And when you haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season, like you're the coach of the Lions, you're the coach of the Browns, you're the coach of the Minnesota Vikings, that can be fine. But when you are the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, an organization that pretty much everybody listening to right now, the farthest they could go back is Chuck Noll. They've really only had 3 coaches. In Chuck Noll, in everyone's lifetime, Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and then Mike Tomlin. So this is not an organization that changes coaches often. But this is an organization through 40, 50 years, through those 3 coaches, they are synonymous with winning. This is an organization, when you have 6 Super Bowls, that just getting to the playoffs or just being above 500 isn't the goal. Like, getting to the playoffs is a requirement for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the problem really for the last 5-6 years of the Pittsburgh Steelers, towards the end of Big Ben and now in this new era of Kenny Pickett, and I know Pickett didn't play last night because he's injured, but he's clearly not the guy in Pittsburgh, is whenever the defense is elite, the offense is dreadful. And when you saw with the other end of it, with Big Ben still there, whenever the offense was elite, when you had Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, the defense was dreadful. So there has never been an evening out party in the last 5 or 6 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers where you look at them and you say, okay, this is a bona fide Super Bowl contender. But I don't think anyone went into this year expecting the Steelers to make the playoffs. To win a Super Bowl. And that's a problem. When you have an organization and there hasn't been a feeling around them that they could win a Super Bowl, even when, remember that year a few years ago where they ended up losing in 2020 to the Browns? Well, they started off the season, it was like 8-0 or 8-1, and you just knew they weren't that great as what their record indicated. So we have not seen a great standard of Steeler football in quite some time. But what happened the last 2 weeks is an extremely low point for this organization. Because the Steelers were in prime position to make the playoffs. The Steelers were in a great spot where many of us were about to say, what another incredible coaching job by Mike Tomlin with nothing around him on the offensive side of the ball. And this team is sitting there after beating Cincinnati 16-10. They're 7-4 with the dreadful Cardinals and the dreadful Patriots coming up. they do what was expected of them, which is a low bar to beat Arizona and New England, they would have been sitting high and pretty at 9-4. But now they are sitting at 7-6. And this is a problem right now with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because we look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and now I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. With this team being at 7-6, and in their final 4 games of the season, you get the Colts, you get the Bengals, you get the Seahawks, and then the Baltimore Ravens. Like right now, next Saturday, they play Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis is better. I trust Gardner Minshew on offense, even without Jonathan Taylor, more than I do with Kenny Pickett or Mitch Trubisky. The week after that, Jake Browning may be better than both those guys of what he did the other night up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then you get the Seahawks and the Ravens. You know, maybe their defense could get them in. Maybe their defense can find a way to get a victory up against Seattle and Baltimore. But I can't expect anything out of the offense. I can't. And this is a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful offense. And the Patriots have a solid defense. That's what's been lost in this Patriots season. They have a solid defense. But the Patriots finally got life last night offensively, and Pittsburgh defense didn't show up. And when the offense is asked to go score 20-something points a game, they're not going to be able to do that. So I know earlier in the week, I was looking at the Steelers. I'm like, all righty, they're 7-5. All righty, they'll beat the Patriots. They'll get 8 wins. Go get 2 wins down the stretch. But after missing this opportunity to get 2 victories that should have been gimmies, even in the NFL, and you lose 24-10 and 21-18, it does feel like the Steelers season is now officially over. And the only other conversation to get into is the future of Mike Tomlin and what you do with Mike Tomlin as the head football coach. So here's our poll question today. What should the Steelers do with Mike Tomlin at the end of the season? Keep him, look to trade him, and fire him. And I'm not saying you have to run him out of town, but I would look to trade Mike Tomlin. I would at least field the trade offers and just see what team is going to give you maybe an offer that you can't refuse. But right now, this organization has to get the message, whether you move on from Tomlin or not, that what they have put on the field recently is far from the Steelers standard. And they haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. And I like Mike Tomlin a lot. I have acknowledged he's a top 5 coach in the sport. But when you have been there since 2007, and I know, right, you have the accolades of never finishing below 500. You have a Super Bowl trophy. You're one of the more well-respected coaches in the league. You got to find a way to get the offense and the defense not even on the same page, but not have the defense all the way up here. I know the defense didn't play great last night, but for most of the season, and then the offense be on the floor, basically in a casket. Underground, can't even find them because this offense has been buried all throughout the season. So this is how I'd approach this offseason on the Steelers. Look to trade him 1, keep him 2, and then fire him 3. I think there's a 0% chance that he does get fired. The other returns on that poll question. Keep him at 58.6%. Look to trade him 26.7%. And then fire him is at 14.7%. I also do believe 2 other coaches that could potentially enter the trade market this year. You could see, let's say after reading that Dunne article, and it's clear how much, right? McDermott probably has reached his apex in Buffalo, and he's done some bizarre things, clearly, even though he's done a really good job in breaking that streak of 17 straight seasons without going to the playoffs, and it feels like the Bills each and every year now, they are in the postseason. But what happens if maybe this offseason, the Pagula family goes, yeah, we got to get rid of McDermott? Well, a guy you may have to call is someone that used to work for you in Joe Shane and see if you could find a way to trade Brian Daboll from the Giants to the Buffalo Bills. Now, I don't know if the Giants would do that, but for Buffalo, you at least have to make the phone call. Because Brian Daboll had Josh Allen playing at an elite level. Now, the Giants may laugh you off the phone since Daboll won Coach of the Year last year. Daboll ain't having a pretty season, though, this year. They call up and offer you a first-round pick and then some for Brian Daboll, who could get the axe after year 3. It's something you at least have to consider with the New York Giants. And the other one, clearly, we've been talking about this for a while, is Bill Belichick. And for most of the year, I have been saying, nah, you don't move on from Bill Belichick. Then the last 3 weeks, I've opened up to the idea about trading Bill Belichick this offseason because it's just time having to go through a proper rebuild. Well, last night, I had a dream. Last night, I had a vision. And in the disappointment, but somewhat euphoria of the Patriots' third win of the season, I did think to myself, Bill's still coaching his ass off on the defensive side of the ball. Bill, though, on offense has been a disaster. What happens if everyone thinks Belichick's leaving? The Patriots go, Bill, we want you to stay. Okay. Right? Kind of similar like Tomlin, where it's probably time to move in a different direction. You get rid of someone like a Belichick or a Tomlin, they'll get scooped up in a second. You know, probably both should explore the trade market, but, you know, guys won 6 Super Bowls. I don't think all of a sudden he forgot how to coach. So maybe the Patriots should do this 3-step plan. You keep Bill Belichick. Then let's say you get the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Well, at that point, Williams and May will be off the board. So you draft a guy by the name of Marvin Harrison Jr. out of The Ohio State. And then a lot of conversation about Jaden Daniels, according to Kirk Herbstreit, being maybe the biggest steal of this upcoming draft in April. Patriots are going to have an early 2nd-round pick because they stink. Maybe you move up into the back end of round 1 and you get Daniels. That could expedite the slop and the dreck of the current state of the New England Patriots, where you get Marvin Harrison Jr., you still have the hoodie and Bill Belichick, and then you also have you also get Jaden Daniels as the quarterback. Just something I thought about. So 3 coaches to watch this offseason if any trade calls come from some other teams. Tomlin, Belichick, and Brian Daboll. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. For about 90 seconds, I thought this was the Carlos with the K show on the YouTube stream. Carlos, I didn't even think he knew he was on camera. He was searching for something. I don't know what the heck you were looking for, but I looked up and I go, why is there a Carlos with the K cam? It would have been funny if you were eating something or doing something crazy, but we had a little snafu right out of the gate on the YouTube stream. But we'll come on back. Now I sound old. The YouTube stream. I sound like my father when he talks about YouTube. What about the Facebook? And what about the YouTube? But we'll take a time out here on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Bryant McFadden will join us on the other side. Former Steeler who played for Mike Tomlin. I'll ask him if it's time for the Steelers and Tomlin to have a divorce. Ty Dunne will join us at the top of the hour. And then Ryan Horvat will do a little picks, NFL picks for Week 14 with Horvat coming up at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific. Off and running, very busy Football Friday edition of the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone. All season long, you can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports on the Odyssey app. Get in the zone, AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. Let's welcome in former NFL defensive back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now does a sensational job for CBS Sports HQ. We were supposed to have him on earlier in the week, but I was texting the wrong phone number, an old phone number for Bryant McFadden. I forgot that he recently texted me saying that he changed his number. So it just so conveniently happens that we bring on B-Mac on a day after the Patriots get their third win of the season, taking down his Pittsburgh Steelers. Mr. McFadden, how you doing today?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good, but Zach, let's keep it real. You can miss me with that whole little, oh, I was texting the wrong number.
I
No,
did.
you know exactly what you were doing. I think you feel it's better to have me on the show the night after my Pittsburgh Steelers lost to your New England Patriots. So the timing seems to be perfect for a guy like yourself. So I will say that.
Wednesday at 11:27 a.m. Yo, you around tomorrow at 4:20 or 5:20 p.m. Eastern? Would love to have you on via Zoom for like 10 minutes. Go around the league and talk a little Knowles and Pats and Steelers. And then I'm like, oh, man, my guy Brian McFadden, who I had a steak dinner with after he lost a bet to me and he paid up. He's not texting back. He's not texting me back. And then Santa goes, oh, yeah, he changed his number. So I appreciate you coming on. I'm actually annoyed that my football team won. I wanted to lose. I wanted to tank. I wanted to see your team. I want to see you as a good friend to the show, have a smile on your face and see a playoff team. So I'm annoyed how this all went down last night.
Yeah, you should be because, you guys had 2 wins at the time before the win last night, sitting in a great position draft-wise to, be able to improve the team dramatically with an impactful player. Now having 3 wins, and clearly you're not going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah.
Fans, of course, you want to win ball games, but let's keep it real. This season is over for a team like the Patriots. So the best thing they could do is lose ball games, not on purpose, but find ways to lose like they've done the other ball games throughout the season so you can be in a prime position to go get one of the big-time players in the draft.
Will this Steelers team make the playoffs? Because the last 2 weeks, you had the Cardinals, you had the Patriots, you were sitting pretty, and now you're sitting at 7-6 with a tough schedule the rest of the way.
You know what, Zach? To be honest with you, I don't think so. And the reason why I say that is because playoff teams, especially in December, Zach, they win the games they're supposed to win. And we know in the NFL, that's why the NFL is such an entertaining sport, because you don't know exactly what you're going to see. You can predict, but every Sunday, right, every NFL game day or game nights, we've seen upsets that no one thought would happen. But there are winnable ball games for some teams. The last 2 weeks, especially at home, you played against 2 teams that had only 2 wins. You got to find a way to win those ball games, especially if you're trying to get into the playoffs. Losing those opportunities, you can't get them back. The road will get more difficult moving forward. And I think the confidence is starting to really lead the team a little bit. So mathematically speaking, by the numbers, they're still in the playoff hunt. But I haven't seen anything on the field that would warrant a playoff position. And hopefully we see a big drastic change for the team. But right now, to answer your question, I say no.
You know how highly competitive this sport is. You know the emotions that players display on the field. Do you have a problem with some of the antics of George Pickens? Or are you okay with the emotions that he's showing?
It's a little bit of both. Now, I would feel some type of way if I didn't see any emotion, right? I think you would feel some type of way. You being a football fan, a football guy, you would feel some type of way if that was your favorite team and you didn't see any emotion from a key player that's not really involved. But then you don't want it to be a distraction either, right? That's the thing. This is a team that does not need to have any distractions from what is already going on, which is the inability to execute in a way that would warrant wins. But George is a guy who wants the football. Heck, we all believe he should be getting the football for whatever reason. He's not heavily involved in the offensive passing game, and it bothers him. It should. And I think when you look at the offense, and we see his antics from afar watching the game, but they have to see his antics on the sideline as well. Find a way to get this man the football. So I don't know if it's more of a him problem or just the offense problem, but whatever it is needs to be resolved.
Has this reached the level of distraction yet, in your opinion?
No, not with him. I think the level of distraction is just the bad executions.
Okay.
Bad execution that we're seeing. That's the distraction. That's what we're talking about. We've been talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, even when they win ball games, how bad the offense has been, how bad they've looked. That's the biggest distraction, because some of the antics that we might harp on here or there, Zach, it's not a big deal if you're winning ball games. If you think about this, let's say George Pickens wasn't involved in the ball game at all, like how he was last night. But if they won, is it a big deal?
Well, earlier this season, they did win a game. Remember, I think it was that Thursday night football game, and he wasn't happy afterwards when he had like 1 catch in the game.
Well, what was a big deal was that same ball game when Deontay Johnson scored a touchdown, his antics were not in a celebratory fashion with the rest of the guys. That was the big deal. But last night, we just saw him distraught on a 4th down opportunity when it wasn't converted and he felt like he was open. But in that same scenario, if they won the ball game, I don't think what we're talking about with George Pickens would be a big talking point.
You're probably right.
Now, that situation the example, that was a situation where they scored. Most guys do what? Celebrate. Yeah. He didn't. He walked straight to the side.
And then posted on social media afterwards, too.
Exactly. So that kind of gave us more to talk about, even though they won the ball game. That the sequences that we saw from him was not converting something. A 3rd down, 4th down, and clearly he felt like I was open to convert it. I think that was the issue. But I think if he won the ball game, those antics was not the same as that Deontay Johnson situation when they scored. And, we supposed to do what? Celebrate with you guys. Clap, jump for joy. He just walked straight to the sideline.
Brian McFadden, now it's tough to slam the defense because I think the defense is better than how they played last night. But as a defensive player, it also has to probably be demoralizing when you almost have to be perfect to win. And then when you're not perfect, you don't have a shot. So with all that being said, the way I laid it out, how do you evaluate the current state of this defense?
Tired, fatigued, mentally, physically. Oh, by the way, dealing with a lot of injuries at the inside linebacker position. I mean, if he just brought Walker in, I think he was a practice squad guy brought in to play significant time, and that's a tall task to ask. And that's what happens in the National Football League, Zach. You know about this. If you have one side that has to hold up the entire ship, at some point in time, it's going to get fatiguing. Heck, we're seeing the same thing with the New York Jets.
100%.
Right? Yeah, and we know that's a top-level type defense, but now they're not playing the same level of defense that they were playing in the first few months of the season because they're worn down. They're tired. So when you factor in the fatigue that I'm hitting on, along with the injuries, I still was surprised to see Bailey Zappi have the first half success. But then I know what is going on with the guys mentally draining because, as you mentioned, it's one thing to go into a ball game knowing that you have to ball out, but it's another thing to go in a ball game knowing that if we're not at our best, we have no shot in winning because our offense does not score a lot. And that has been the mindset for the Pittsburgh Steelers the entire season. And it's a tough task to ask of anyone to be perfect, especially in the National Football League when you know that's not going to happen.
Now, I remember before the first round of the draft a few years ago when we were together in Las Vegas, you weren't the biggest fan of Kenny Pickett. Now, after seeing what you've seen this year, and he's been having some injuries too, let's just say Kenny Pickett is the starter week 1 next year. What would your reaction be from the Steelers side of things?
You know what? I think for me to answer that question, I would love to see him back in a uniform before the season is out. Because the thing about Kenny Pickett, he's only played 1 game not having Matt Canada as his OC. Matt Canada took almost 90% of the blame, it feels like, for what we were not seeing with the offense. Let's see what Kenny Pickett looked like without Matt Canada. And I think that definitely would be a better evaluation into what needs to be done moving forward at the quarterback position. Because right now, everything that we didn't see from Kenny Pickett is kind of put on who? Matt Canada. And then, of course, Cincinnati was the first game without Matt Canada. Offense didn't score a lot of points, but they had more total yards, which was a plus. First time over 400 yards in quite some time. And then last week against Arizona, he got injured in the first quarter. Missed this ball game. Will he return next week for the Colts? We don't know. But I need to see what he looks like without Matt Canada, because if he jumps back into the lineup and looks similar to what we saw in Cincinnati, then maybe it was mostly Matt Canada. But if he jumps into the lineup and the offense looks like how it looked last night with him, now you got to start evaluating and thinking about how much better can he get? You know what I mean? So I think answering that question, I got to wait and see. Hopefully he can come back to kind of finish out the season at some point, because that's a tough question, Zach, because, quarterbacks are extremely important. If you think you got a guy, you ride with him. If you don't think you got a guy, you better find out and figure out who can be the guy, because if you don't have a quarterback that answered in your organization, you're not going to win a lot of ball games.
I'll ask you another tough question here, Brian McFadden. I make you the owner of the Steelers. Let's say David Tepper or whatever, one of these 9 or 10 jobs are open this offseason. The owner of that team calls you up and offers you a first-round pick and then some for Mike Tomlin. Would you consider trading Tomlin?
No, because who are you bringing in bringing in. Now, the thing about Steelers fans, just like Patriot fans, extremely spoiled. Extremely spoiled. So the first sign where things look to be a bit rocky or not going as planned, they've been saying Mike Tomlin this, Mike Tomlin that. But there are a lot of organizations, and you talk about the teams that will probably need a head coach this year. Off the top of my head, of course, you got Carolina, you got the Raiders, Washington, I think. Same would be said for potentially Chicago. There are quite a few teams, and that's what we know. It might be some unexpected firings as well. They will all jump at the chance to go get a guy like Mike Tomlin, in my opinion. So if you're Pittsburgh, you got to remember, if you're letting him go, who are you bringing in?
So you think it's crazy? You think it's crazy when Steelers fans say, hey, they haven't won a playoff game since 2016. It's time to split and divorce from Tomlin.
I mean, having an issue with not winning a playoff game since 2016 should be an issue, right? That's a legit gripe. But thinking about firing your head coach because of that, and also, too, I think he has to understand Mike Tomlin. There's a such thing as too much loyalty, because I think he really held on to Mike Canada too long.
Yeah, too long.
In my opinion. Yeah, I felt like what we saw last year, even though Kenny Pickett looked pretty good at the end of the season, you should have started figuring out, is there any other options, better options for our offense? And I think because of that, that's why he's in the position that he's in right now. But yeah, I'm not, because think about the Cleveland Browns, their organizations. How many head coaches they've had?
7,000.
Think about the New York Jets. Heck, the Miami Dolphins just got it right. They just got it right. Before Kyle Shanahan jumped to San Fran, remember the dog years that San Francisco had? Look at the Houston Texans, right? The Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, so there's a lot of teams that have been playing musical chairs at the head coaching position, and some of them just got it right, and some of them haven't. They're still trying to figure it out. The Detroit Lions, like, how many years? And so that's a very, very thin line to tap around if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers fan base. Because if you sit here and say, yeah, we can let him go, and let's bring in, who are you bringing in? Because one thing I know about the Pittsburgh Steelers, the last three coaches, they've all won championships. They've all won Super Bowls. They've all had long tenures within the organization. And we know the standard is the standard, but having a gripe about not winning the playoff games, that's a legit gripe. But saying that we should go ahead and look elsewhere, who out there?
Yeah, I would say the hottest name on the market. Like, if you take away Belichick or you say Jim Harbaugh staying at Michigan, it would be Johnson, the offensive coordinator with the Lions. That would be the hottest name out there.
Yeah, and he's coming from an organization that just started to really find their niche. The last 2 years, he's done a great job with their offense. But he's coming from an organization that's just starting to find their niche. One thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers organization, even though Mike Tomlin wasn't a head coach, he was around championships with the Buccaneers. You know what I mean? He was around Hall of Famers, a foundation that was built on championship-like pedigree, along with being under the tutelage of Tony Dungy. So then he goes to Minnesota. 1 year as a DC, had a pretty good year calling plays there. Then he jumps into the Pittsburgh Steelers situation. He understood what it meant to win championships because he won it before. I don't think Pittsburgh goes for a guy who just starting to really find his way in this league. That's not what that organization do when you talk about the tradition and the prestige. So I don't agree with the whole, what about who's next, or what would you do without Mike Tomlin? Because I think he's still a good coach. I think the loyalty is probably his biggest issue to some of his coaches on his staff.
Yeah, by the way, I just feel really bad for you, because even with a 2-win Patriot team at the time, the Patriots continue to be the Steelers' daddy. And then also you have to deal with your Seminoles getting left out of the college football playoff. I hate to bring this up because it's at the end of the week and you're probably trying to move on, but how'd you react to your alma mater being held out of the CFP?
Yo, Zach, I reacted the same way you probably reacted, and you didn't go to Florida State. And I don't know how you reacted because we haven't talked about this, but I know the integrity in which you watch and how you watch football.
I think they got screwed, but I also think the committee got it right, if that makes sense.
I feel like, yes, they got screwed. And how do we know the committee got it right? That's my thing, because I've been playing football my entire life. You don't know what's right until you actually see the game is played, right? So that's my thing, is about what they think should be done is what they done. That's what they did. But we don't know if they got it right. We don't know that until we actually see. For me personally, Nick Foles won a Super Bowl as a backup quarterback.
Yeah,
for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reason why he won that Super Bowl is for a few reasons. Number one, they had great coaching. Number two, they had dudes on both sides of the football.
Yeah, absolutely. And it wasn't just Foles who got in there. They lost Peters, they lost the middle linebacker, and then also a great special teams player.
Yes, but that team was deep. The depth they had on both sides of the football really surfaced, especially in postseason play. For us, we had dudes on this team. We have a lot of pro prospects on this team. And Rodemaker is a guy who jumped into a very, very difficult situation. From not really playing to now you're our guy and you got to emerge against our rival in a situation where it's very, very difficult to win in the swamp. Last time I checked, and won. But the last time I checked, Alabama played against their rival, who is a bad team, but barely needed a miracle with all of their starters. We didn't need a miracle to beat Florida. They hit us with, and that's the thing. I understand what the committee is saying. As you mentioned, they felt like they got it right. Okay, cool. But don't knock the way we won, but then don't address the way another team won in the Alabama Crimson Tide. Well, they struggled with Florida and barely put up these points. Oh, by the way, Florida and Alabama, they're in the same neighborhood as bad teams. Well, heck, Auburn had a uglier loss than Florida, losing to New Mexico State, who was a 5-point underdog. They beat them by 20 points or so at Auburn. So that's my issue. That's what really bothers me, is that you sit here and say Florida, you struggled against Florida, offense didn't look good. Oh, by the way, Zach, they covered the spread also.
I know you had them.
Florida State still covered the spread against Florida, but for the committee, well, you didn't look good, but then you don't bring up the miracle that was needed for Auburn.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
and then
fair point.
Championship weekend, well, you struggled against Louisville. Okay, your offense didn't do a lot against Louisville.
Defense
What did Michigan offense do?
Nothing.
We actually had more total yards offensively than the Wolverines. So you're knocking Florida State for winning in a certain type of way with their defense, but you're not saying anything for Michigan winning the same way we won with their defense. Oh, by the way, our offense actually had a better day, and they had all of their starters. That's my thing. That's what bothers me with Florida State and the committee and how they viewed the committee, because the same negatives they're throwing at Florida State for those two games without Jordan Travis, they're not saying anything in regards to Michigan or Alabama and how they won their final ball games, the Iron Bowl and then the Big Ten championship. So that's my issue, and it sucks for the players because these guys went hard. They went hard. And my thing is this, though. I know we got to go.
Yeah, I got to run. Yeah.
For everyone that says they didn't have a shot, you don't know that.
Yeah, you got to put the football down in the field and see how it is. B-Mac, love you as always. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks so much.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get the latest CBS Sports Radio update in with the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Jaguars are coming off a tough loss on Monday night and hoping to have their quarterback. Head coach Doug Peterson said they're going to wait until Sunday to make a decision on Trevor Lawrence's status, while Justin Jefferson is back for the Vikings this weekend off the injury list. The Chiefs have ruled out Isaiah Pacheco with a shoulder injury, and the Colts' Jonathan Taylor remains out with an injured thumb. Mike McCarthy is feeling better following his bout with appendicitis and said he expects to be on the sidelines Sunday night when his Cowboys take on the Eagles. Two young teams going in opposite directions meet tonight in Orlando, where the Magic host the Pistons, who have dropped 18 straight. Cade Cunningham was the number one pick in 2021, but the Pistons haven't gotten out of the bottom of the NBA cellar, while the Magic have flourished with the top pick in 2022. Paolo Banchero coming off a career-high 42 on Wednesday.
Obviously, being a young player, you want to prove yourself against the best, and, I want to be at the top, so, it takes, having great game after game, season after season, performance after performance. So just trying to be consistent and, help this team get wins.
Orlando is looking for its 15th win tonight. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, it's Amy Lawrence. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio at home. Just ask Alexa to play CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Now back to the Zach Gelb Show.
It's time to Ask the Pros, where you, the listener, gets to ask us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at CBS Sports Radio or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag Ask the Pros. Be listening later in the show when we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Just saw this from Ian Rappaport. The Chiefs are ruling out running back Isaiah Pacheco, Drew Tranquill, their linebacker, Brian Cook, and offensive tackle Donovan Smith for the Chiefs game, which is a home game up against the Buffalo Bills. Now, Ty Dunne's going to join us coming up in about 10 minutes. He had this bombshell article documenting some of the shortcomings of one Sean McDermott. You got my reaction yesterday to just the stupidity of using 9/11 and the terrorists and how they work together to communicate to try to make that a message back in 2019 to your team on how to communicate in a perfect manner. You know, it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, to use 9/11, which is such, as we all know, an awful event and, a day that no one will ever forget, and how many innocent lives we lost that day. It's just extremely dumb and tone deaf by the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. So I ranted and raved about that one and freaked out yesterday, so I'll try to keep it calm here today. This is a game, though, that in the last 24 hours since this article came out, and you already heard whispers of this already, where even though the Bills have kind of said, Sean McDermott's our guy, we believe in Sean McDermott, he broke the 17-year playoff absence, and they've been a pretty damn good team ever since he has got there, making the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor, and then being a perennial contender under Sean McDermott ever since he did get Josh Allen. They lose this game on Sunday. It's one thing where you hear the whispers now, but then coming off this week, and then also you factored in not only the story by Ty Dunne, who will join us in a bit, but then you look at this matchup. It's the Bills and the Chiefs are vulnerable. They can be had this weekend, where their defense, which looked like it was going to be a pretty damn good unit, got exposed last week by Jordan Love. And offensively, the Chiefs, really their only constants this year. We know Mahomes is great. Okay, you have Travis Kelce. And then Isaiah Pacheco has run the ball very hard for them. Like, that guy runs aggressively. He's a physical back. I'm a big fan of Isaiah Pacheco, and now you take him out of the lineup because he's out with an injury. Then Drew Tranquill is very good coming over from the Chargers to play linebacker, stay inside the AFC West with the Chiefs is out. Brian Cook, the last 2 years, has found himself a role being a young player in Kansas City, and then you're without Donovan Smith, who won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know he holds a lot, but now he's in Kansas City with the Chiefs. So Buffalo can't win this game when you do have the better offense. And I know it's still Mahomes and Reed and Kelce. That's a big problem. And you will hear a lot on Monday. I guarantee this. The two things that I believe could have the biggest reaction on Monday from this week and weekend in football. Bills lose to the Chiefs. It will either be in the first segment or the second segment of every show. Sean McDermott should be fired. And it's time to move on from Sean McDermott. And then the other potential lead topic, and this would triumph all of them, Cowboys lose to the Eagles, and every show in America, from ESPN to Fox to here at CBS, whatever network you want to tune into, it will be the Cowboys fraudulent in a big spot once again. Here comes all these fans of the drama Dallas choking Cowboys, where the cockroaches of the Cowboy fans, they pop up. When they crush, the lowly Patriots, they crush the inferior like the Jets and the Giants. They find a way to survive and scoop past the Chargers and the Seahawks. But then when they go up against the really, 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 really good teams, they got smacked around like the 49ers. They got a little moral victory against the Eagles, but they lost. So that's why we call it a moral victory. And then you lose again to the Eagles, where Cowboys fans have been saying, the Eagles, they're to be had. We could take care of them. Every show on Monday's talking about how it goes from Dak MVP, McCarthy being the guy in Dallas, right? Here comes the Cowboys. They're getting slept on. They're getting disrespected to no, everyone was actually just telling the truth about the Cowboys. So I really do believe those are the two big stories to emerge from this weekend in football. Bills lose, everyone's going to be calling for McDermott. The Cowboys lose, everyone's going to be calling them frauds. And also, here's another one to chew on. I don't think this is going to be as sexy because most people expect the 49ers to win. Like, there's a case to be made for Chiefs or Bills. There's a case to be made for Eagles or Cowboys. Because of where the 49ers are, maybe it is a letdown. I don't think many people, even in an NFC West showdown, are going to pick the 49ers to lose to the Seahawks. So the Seahawks lose and Geno Smith doesn't play well. A lot of people on Monday are going to be saying, well, look at all the talent that they have with Lockett and Metcalf and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then defensively, you have Reek Woolen and you got Witherspoon as well. Even though Geno was one of the best stories in the NFL last year, and he hasn't been playing horribly this year, but he hasn't been playing great, maybe you got to go bring in a new quarterback this offseason as well. Ty Dunne will join us next. We'll talk about his story about the Bills and Sean McDermott. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
All righty, away we go. Hour number 2 of our radio program, rock and rolling on a football Friday. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Yesterday, we had the article come out on golongtd.com. It's called The McDermott Problem, and it's a 3-part article regarding some of the problems with the Buffalo Bills and their football coach and Sean McDermott. The author of the great column on his great website, golongtd.com, is Ty Dunne, who's kind enough to join us right now. Ty, my friend, I appreciate it as always. How you been?
Doing well. Great to be here with you. I know we've texted and DM'd over the years. I'm a big fan. You do a hell of a job here. So thanks for having me, Zach.
Well, I appreciate that, and it means a lot coming from you. So we've all been in these positions where we say things or we write things and they blow up, they go viral, and then the teams respond to it. And there's 2 approaches. They either trash what you say and they said there's no credence to it, or they accept some of the things. What has your reaction kind of been to the reaction that some of the higher-ups with the Bills have had to this article in the last 24 hours or so?
Right. I mean, this was 21,000 words. 25 sources. We're talking players, coaches, personnel that have worked with Sean McDermott, played for him, coached with him, been around him every day. So it wasn't a positive light, obviously. The question is, what's wrong with the Bills? Like, how did they get to this point where the Super Bowl window is open? You've got Josh Allen. You've been banging on that door now for 5-6 years, really. That's kind of what drives the report in here, Zach, and it's going to drive you to some not pretty places, obviously, whether it's treatment of assistants and threatening to fire those assistants, whether it is a speech gone awry, as everybody now knows.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's not pretty, and he has every right to defend himself in that setting, and that's what he did today. So it's not a surprise, I guess, to answer your question. And I think that the readers can make their own judgment, right? You read the stories and the substance that is within these stories from the coach perspective, the player perspective, around the league as well. I also chatted with Brett Favre for an hour. He sees a lot of himself in Josh Allen, and he kind of knows what it's like when you do have that special relationship with a coach. Had it with Mike Holmgren, then he lost it, and he wished he had it a lot longer than 7 years. I think that's kind of the point of the story. You have a good thing going if you're Buffalo right now. You're a 9-10 win team for a very long time, but why not challenge yourself to be something greater given your quarterback?
And I think it's fear, because you even acknowledge it in the article. And I happen to be a big supporter of Sean McDermott until I read your article the other day. But even before your article comes out, it did feel like it's time to move on. But I really do think it's the fear of how many coaches they had to go through in the past. And you point out, like, McDermott did break that playoff streak of not going for 17 years, and they've always been in the playoffs. And it just seems like the Pegula family is fine where they're at, even though we know there should be greater aspirations for this core.
There's 2 ways to think about this, right, Zach? There is that argument to be made. And I think that is where a lot of maybe older fans are, even some younger fans that kind of remember the Chan Gailey, the Doug Marrone, the Greg Williams, the Mike Malarkey, Dick Duran days. Rex Ryan, it was a clown show. Right? It was bad for every possible reason. But whenever that job became available, and I grew up here in Western New York, whenever the Bills were looking for a head coach, it was not a destination. Right? I remember one year fans thought, "Oh, we're gonna get Bill Cowher." Right? That's who we're gonna get to save this thing. Well, hell, nobody even knew who the GM was. They didn't really have a GM. There was no clear power structure for X amount of years. You're not getting the best of the very best to apply for that job and under those circumstances. So if you're going to think in that frame of the dark side is around the other corner, if you remove Sean McDermott, it's another 17 years of no playoffs, of just dismal, dreary, depressing football. I get it. You keep them, right? Get your 10 wins a season. But if you're going to look at it in terms of Josh Allen is in his prime, Josh Allen is 27. Josh Allen had one of the best playoff games we've ever seen, and the head coach blew it in the final 13 seconds, exactly as he did against Philly when Josh Allen goes for 400 yards, 5 touchdowns, is playing out of his mind. You got to think that maybe the other side isn't all gloom and doom. Maybe you do get an offensive coach who believes in his players late in games and is going to take that chance and is going to have a command of the room in a different way than Sean. And Sean deserves all the credit in the world because his place was a dumpster fire. It was bad. And give him credit last year. I mean, Damar Hamlin almost dies on a football field. He guided that team through an unprecedented situation. There's a lot of good to Sean McDermott, but I think it was worth raising the context here of you've got a special talent at quarterback. And as Brett Favre knows, these windows can close. He knows if Mike Holmgren didn't want total control and wanted to be the GM and the coach and went to Seattle, they would have won multiple Super Bowls because they had a really special thing.
Take me behind the scenes, Ty Dunne, because there's sometimes, right, we do rants on the radio and then the segment ends and it's like, okay, you go on to the next segment. But yesterday, when I'm reading about the analogy he used of the terrorists with 9/11 and their communication skills, being someone that lives in the city now, grew up on Long Island when 9/11 happened, it hit home. And, I was really heated even after saying what I said yesterday during the break, and it carried over into the next segment. You're well-sourced. You have so many great connections. When that story was told to you, how did you react to it when you were trying to uncover everything?
The jaw just hits the floor.
It's inconceivable.
I think that unbelievably inappropriate, inconceivable, unforgivable. It's terrible. It's terrible. And he did try to explain his thinking to the team. So, right, they're in training camp, St. John Fisher College, 2019. This is the third year of Sean McDermott as head coach, second year with Josh Allen. So they're starting to think, okay, now it's time to become a playoff team. I'm sure that was the year that maybe he's really feeling some pressure. We got to get this thing going now that we have the quarterback. And he overthought it, right? It wasn't like this was on a whim and he just misspoke. It speaks to who Sean McDermott is as a coach in a good sense too, in terms of being maniacal and meticulous and obsessed with the details. When it comes to situational football, he has everybody prepared for, red zone, third down, second and medium with 4 minutes left, whatever the situation is. That's what the team needed post Rex Ryan. They needed discipline and order and all of that. But he takes it to an extreme. And this was the extreme of all extremes, to somehow try to articulate to your team that if evil can come together can come together and do something as heinous as the 9/11 terrorist attacks, imagine what we could do trying to achieve something great. So he overthought it. I think that is just a flaw that he has late in games, overthinking situations, and it came back to bite him. I mean, there were, granted, the team has changed a lot since then, but I know in the moment there were coaches and players that were like, what the hell just happened? They couldn't believe it. And Kyle Williams had just retired the year before, one of the more trusted veterans that the Bills have had the last 2 decades. He's the one, I believe, that really kind of went to Sean and was like, dude, you got to talk to the team. You got to smooth this over. So then an hour later, he comes out to the practice field and apologizes. But it did expose a blind spot, I believe.
Ty Dunne here with us. When I'm reading your article, I also couldn't believe, just because, you're a well-respected reporter. You've been doing this for a long time. That's right. The Bills don't credential you. Why is that?
That's their prerogative, right? Every team is going to be different. And I live 15 minutes from the stadium. And for whatever reason, they said that they're just not credentialing new media. This is multiple times over the course of the last few years. Hey, as I told the Bills then, it's not going to stop me from doing my job because the Bills fans have an appetite for long form, for columns, for podcasts, just like any rabid fan base does. So I did a podcast with Isaiah McKenzie for 2 years. I've sat down with players through agents, through themselves, Damar Hamlin, Deion Dawkins, Nyheim Hines, Quentin Morris, all kinds of players. So when it comes to this team, this season, all the questions that people have, what's going on behind the scenes, I just wanted to call as many people as I possibly could on my own to get answers.
And you know what just naturally happens when you're not credentialed by a team and you have a piece out like this, Ty Dunne. People that don't like the piece are going to say, oh, well, Ty just has a vendetta against the Bills organization and Sean McDermott. How do you respond to people that are just saying you're just doing this because you don't like the Bills because they won't credential you?
What can you say to anybody that isn't interested in learning about what happens with any team in this league behind the scenes? Like isn't that why we get into this, right? Like there's press conferences and there's poll tested narratives that are established and set, and the NFL is a big, big, big business. I think that if you're a fan and you're pouring your paycheck into tickets, into parking, into $18 beers, into all this stuff, you deserve to know how this league is really run behind the scenes. And guess what? It's not always going to be pretty. It's not like this is the first palace intrigue kind of story that I've done covering pro football. I've done stuff like the Green Bay Packers after covering the team, the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy, the Minnesota Vikings with Mike Zimmer. I was just in Jacksonville this last training camp, and the Urban Meyer days were not pretty. I think by and large fans want to know what the hell's going on behind the scenes, beyond a press conference. So to those people who genuinely are interested in learning something, go longtd.com. We're going to try to deliver unfiltered, unvarnished football coverage today. Not a bad segue, right? But I get it. Hey, if people just want, the slop served up on a platter at a podium, and don't get me wrong, there are some coaches who are awesome at the podium. Dan Campbell, Mike McDaniel, go down the list. But I think that the fans deserve more. They deserve us in the media sitting down with guys one-on-one to learn something. So
when McDermott says today that this is an attack on his character, how do you view that statement from Sean McDermott?
I don't think it's an attack on his character when I've got Isaiah McKenzie and Nyheim Hines and Lee Smith and Patrick DeMarco and Tywan Jones, like so many players in this series saying really nice things about Sean McDermott. I get it. That's kind of what they want to set, and that's where a mob will potentially follow. But there was a lot of points made in this series of what Sean McDermott is getting at with this culture and why it was needed to a large extent post Rex Ryan. But it's not all going to be pretty, right? I mean, these assistant coaches that worked under him had some pretty specific examples to share. Chad Hall declined comment for this story, but I had heard through multiple people what happened there, where the wide receivers on the team in 2020 who are setting all kinds of records chip in to buy him a truck. And that's unheard of. That's amazing, right? Your receivers are chipping in to get a dude a truck, and that's looked down upon as a negative by Sean McDermott behind the scenes. That it was a dark day at one Bills drive. They said there's a lot of detail in this series that I think does kind of speak to itself. The threatening to fire coaches kind of on a whim. That being said, look, just read it. People can make their own judgment, and they can listen to Sean McDermott. He has every right to defend himself, 100%. And I would absolutely welcome the opportunity to chat with him at any day, anytime. So the door isn't closed here. The door's not closed here. Go along.
They won't give you a credential. I don't think they're letting you speak to the coach. It would be fun.
You never know.
I would love it, but I don't think that's going to happen.
You never know. Hey, if the door's closed on their end, it ain't closed here. I'll just say that.
Before we let you run, on 0 to 100 on that scale, 0, no chance, 100, he's fully gone. Where do you think it is that McDermott is back next year as the head football coach of this team?
I think he's back. I don't think that the wheels are going to completely fall off this team. They've got a hard schedule. You've got Kansas City, Dallas, Miami down the pipe. I think the Chargers and Patriots in between. So it won't be easy, but you do have one of the best players in the sport in Josh Allen. You do have a team that offensively is playing really, really well. So I think that they'll win 2 games, maybe 3, maybe sneak into the playoffs. But barring a complete meltdown, I would think he's back. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. Just everything I hear, the ownership, they don't want to make a change if they don't absolutely have to.
Last thing, just because I know, right, you covered the Packers for a long time. You've done a lot of work covering the scene of the legendary fans at Lambeau Field and everything that comes with the Packers. Jordan Love, I know that you're a fan. The last few weeks is looking pretty damn good. What would you say about the Packers' future with Jordan Love at the quarterback position?
Man, the future is unbelievably bright with Jordan Love. And he was raw out of Utah State. Obviously, it was a major gamble, major risk. When you also factor in the personalities involved, Aaron Rodgers as well. He was not happy at that night when they drafted Jordan Love, and a lot happened after that. But they got to this place eventually, and they got to it at the right time. Look, they probably, in retrospect, would have loved to have taken the unlimited amount of picks and players and whatever you could have gotten in trade for Aaron Rodgers a year before they did finally trade him to the New York Jets. But the timing was probably right in terms of Jordan Love's development because he finally got his feet wet. There's been some ups and downs, but he all along had those characteristics, I think, Zach, that you just can't coach and inject into a quarterback. Mentally tough, athletic, can improvise, big arm, throws at different angles. Now that he's getting experience with all these receivers that are the same age, by the way, I don't see how his arrow points the wrong direction anytime soon. And the Packers, they got a really winnable schedule the rest of the way. They could even sneak into the playoffs and be a threat.
He is Ty Dunne, does a great job. Make sure you check out his website, golongtd.com, for pieces about Sean McDermott and many other NFL happenings as well. Ty, always great to connect with you. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Zach. Appreciate you.
There you go. Ty Dunne joining us on the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Really good stuff and really an intriguing piece and kind of paints a picture of the Buffalo Bills organization. And Ty has said this in the article, right? You even heard him here a few moments ago. He thinks McDermott's going to be back. I just think it's time to move on. And I wanted Sean McDermott to be a head coach before anybody did. And I thought the Eagles should hire him before Doug Peterson. I worked out with Doug Peterson, but I was a big fan of his, and he's done a really good job in Buffalo. But I use this analogy. Like when you are building from the ground up, you may hire someone that builds most of your house, but then someone has to put the finishing touches on. And I just don't think Sean is ready to put the finishing touches on the house, and he's not ready to put the roof on top of the house. And I think he's done a lot of good work and all the work he can do. And now you need someone else to get this ball over the goal line and make sure that you give those Buffalo fans a Lombardi trophy, their first ever, something that they're definitely deserving of. All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will take a time out. When we come on back, how this week will tell us all we need to know about the Dallas Cowboys.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio.
I don't buy that the Cowboys are this great football team. I think the Cowboys have a limitation of just getting to the second round of the playoffs. And the Eagles are better, the 49ers are better, and then also you do have the Detroit Lions who are better in the NFC. But if this comes into a second place conversation and those three teams go down, let's say, Cowboys are then that fourth best team in the NFC.
Here's Zach Gelb.
You can stream the NFL on Westwood One for free, sponsored by AutoZone all season long. You can listen to every Westwood One broadcast of the NFL live on the NFL app by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports or on the Odyssey app. Get AutoZone. AutoZone's free battery testing and charging is available for free at your local AutoZone. Get in the zone, AutoZone. Restrictions apply. So I see from John Morosi, who covers Major League Baseball for the MLB Network and also Fox, that a source has told him that Shohei Ohtani is en route to Toronto today. A representative of his agency at CAA would not comment when asked about Ohtani's travel plan. At this hour, Ohtani does not have a signed agreement with any MLB team. There's a lot of speculation and reports that the decision could come today. Maybe we'll get it by the end of the weekend, if not today. But let me just give a quick take here on Major League Baseball, and we'll get back to the football on a very happening Football Friday in the Zach Gelb Show. I see a lot of reporters today, like Major League Baseball reporters, that are like, oh, it's such a disservice what Ohtani's doing to Major League Baseball, a sport that doesn't get a lot of publicity, and he's been so close to the vest, and he's not really embracing, like, the public in this free agency chase. Like, am I so lost on this one? I think it's intriguing when we don't know for 3 days where someone is going to sign, and then out of nowhere, this report's going to come down, whether it's from Ohtani or whether it's from like a reporter that he leaks it to, that we find out that way. Like, don't get me wrong. If this was public, and I know he's the biggest free agent, right, the sport has seen, or the most hyped free agent the sport has ever seen, if this was public and we knew necessarily where he was going on every single move, I don't know, I kind of get fatigued with this story. And I don't think we're sitting here for 2 weeks on CBS Sports Radio, that's for sure, when we're in the midst of the college football season towards the end of it, and you have the NFL as well. Just because, like, let's say Ohtani goes to Boston, and then Ohtani does, like, a public tour, and he goes to L.A., and then he goes to Toronto. You know, yeah, we talk about it, but it's not going to change the landscape of Major League Baseball. Now, where he goes, what team he picks to play for, that's going to change. But I think you have a lot of reporters that are caught up in their feelings right now, that they're not getting this access, and the Ohtani camp is trying to restrict any leaks, and he's basically throwing it out there that he may not sign with the team if they leak out which way he's leaning or not. It's like, how much into yourself do you have to be as a reporter or as a fan to be so annoyed that this guy wants to keep it quiet? And here's the thing. I guarantee you this. If Ohtani was out there parading himself around from city to city and he made this a big public chase, you'd have the same losers that would get up on their platform and would say, oh, he's being too public. You know, shouldn't you respect the game? Shouldn't you have some class to the process? So I think it's a lose-lose. You're out there in the public, you get ripped. You want to keep this a secret until you make your decision, you get ripped as well. Like, Samter, you've been in the national scene for a very long time. Do you feel similarly to how I do, that if Ohtani was more public with this process, that it really wouldn't change much for Major League Baseball? Ultimately, where he signs and where he goes is what's going to change Major League Baseball because of the excitement that is surrounding this player.
Yeah, 100%. And to your point, like, we ripped LeBron for, like, being too public with how he did his decision. Yeah. And, like, that's the free agency move that I kind of compare the most to this Ohtani. Like, I can't remember a free agent frenzy in any sport that had this kind of buzz. Maybe Tom Brady, but that was so quick that it didn't.
And there
really
weren't
kind
a lot of teams
up.
interested.
Right. So, like, this Ohtani buzz is, like, as big as it's been for a sport in a long time since LeBron in 2010. Mm-hmm. And we ripped LeBron for what he did. Even though he donated all that money to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Connecticut, we ripped him for going public and how he said it. Ohtani's doing the opposite. So it's, like you said, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're probably right that there's a lot of people who are frustrated, but I think as fans, we kind of appreciate it. I think most people who are part of this, you're right, it's football season. Basketball is starting now. College football is getting to the playoffs soon. The Heisman is tomorrow. Army-Navy is tomorrow. Like, we don't need to hear daily, minute-by-minute updates on where Ohtani's flying, who he met with. And the fact that he kept it secret, I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of like a pressure test for all the coaches and GMs to see who can keep their mouth shut.
Yeah, and I'm actually intrigued now without, like, so many times in life now, we get told the answers to the test before having to actually take the test. And now I like that we don't have the answer. And they're like, I can get on the radio and say he's going to the Giants, or he's going to the Dodgers, or he's going to the Blue Jays. Like, there's a lot of speculation out there, but it's fun, and it's almost a mysterious way that we don't know. It's like you're watching a really good movie, and you're getting ready to go watch a good movie, you get like a few reviews of what may happen, and then you sit down in the theater and it's go time whenever he does make that decision. Now, just to go off what you said, Sam, there are two things. One, the other big-time free agency chase that I remember was Kevin Durant. When Durant ended up going to the Warriors, and you had, the members of the Warriors going out to the Hamptons, and Durant was basically stationed in the Hamptons. I think like Tom Brady went with the Celtics to go visit Kevin Durant as well. That was the other one. But the thing on the LeBron part, because you bring up a good point, how LeBron, that's outside of the NBA Finals against the Dallas Mavericks, the lowest part of LeBron James's career when people think of ways to criticize him with actual criticism is the decision. Now, the decision, like you said, was for a good cause, the Boys and Girls Club. I actually think a lot of people advise LeBron to not do it in that manner, like a lot of smart basketball people. But LeBron didn't listen, and he wanted to go about it his way. The way that I will say this is this. I don't think it was the reaction to the decision by LeBron about like him doing it publicly and all that stuff. It's that you were so loyal to Cleveland and right, that was your home and you were leaving that team. It's how long you drag that out in a public setting. Like Ohtani is not dragging this out in a public setting. He just wants this to be private. LeBron, if he would have just got up there and did the decision, it would have been one thing, but there was speculations and leaks coming from the LeBron camp, and they used Chris Broussard throughout that whole process. It is so clear that someone close to LeBron camp was using Chris Broussard to that process because Chris would get on SportsCenter. I think he was working at SportsCenter at the time, and every day he would have a new destination. You know, he's going to the Nets, he's going to the Knicks, he's going to the Heat. Every day, Chris Broussard was coming up with a new destination. So that's where I think it differentiates here. Yes, LeBron ended up having the rejection done publicly, which looked bad. But he also embraced the public persona of this, whereas Ohtani, he wants this to be a secret and kept under wraps. And the whole baseball world really is waiting for him to make that decision, and it's done in a secret way, which I think is pretty damn cool. And how the heck is he going to announce this? Like, you've been around a long time here, Samter. How do you think he ends up announcing it? You think he just releases a statement? You think the team releases a statement, or does he leak it to maybe like a trusted reporter?
I think knowing Ohtani, like you said, he doesn't need a lot of fanfare.
And we really don't know Ohtani, too.
Well, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think he intentionally keeps us at arm's length so we don't know him. So I think it's going to be somewhat muted. Like the first LeBron was the decision on TV. The second LeBron decision to go back to Cleveland
was a letter.
Was in the Tribune.
Yeah.
Was in the Players Tribune with, Derek Jeter's company.
Coming home.
Yeah. And so it was a lot more like understated. I think that it's going to be either a leak or maybe we're going to get a report, like some breaking news from some insider who's going to get it. But I don't think there's going to be a big announcement. Maybe, it's going to be something semi-muted that's going to, spread like wildfire.
Yeah, the only thing that I would knock Ohtani for, and I know this could be an old school way of thinking, but you have so many of these media companies like talking about if you want to grow the game and things like that. And ultimately, Ohtani will grow the game when he gets on his new team and plays for his new team, assuming that he leaves the Angels. It is kind of unfortunate this decision comes down on a Friday or a Saturday. Like at this point, once like 6 o'clock hits, like the traditional media cycle, it's over for the week. Like, yeah, I get it, right? There's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's social media. You could go live and things like that. But that is a little bit unfortunate if you get the Friday news dump or the early Saturday morning news drop here where it's like, okay, a lot of people that work Monday through Friday in the sports world don't get to really then attack that until Monday. That would be selfishly the only thing that I would have a gripe with this Shohei Ohtani process. 855-212-4CBS, 855-212-4227. Let's go to Mark in Ohio next up on CBS Sports Radio. Mark, what's happening?
I compare this to the way Aaron Rodgers found his team, and I think Ohtani's going about it the right way where he's keeping it a secret, whereas Aaron Rodgers, by the time he ended up at the Jets, it was like the only place he had to go because rumors and assumptions had taken over and other teams started filling their rosters and were sort of taking themselves out of the running based on those rumors and assumptions. And so Ohtani's playing it smart where he's taking the rumors and assumptions out of the game so that he gets to choose instead of being eventually forced somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't think that Rodgers got forced somewhere. It was he wanted to go once he came out of the darkness retreat where he went into the cave thinking he was going to retire. Remember that bull junk? He goes into the cave and then he walks out and he goes, oh, yeah, I didn't get any response back from the Packers. Okay, I still want to play. He forced his way to the Jets. Like, he knew the destinations that wanted him and he picked the team that he wanted to go to. Like Rodgers, I know he's good for what we do, but he was an attention whore throughout the entire process. There was no doubt about it. Where Ohtani wants none of the attention on him. And I can't really fault Ohtani for that. Let's go to Nate in Pennsylvania next up on CBS Sports Radio. Nate, what's happening? Nate.
Hey, Zach.
Yep, go ahead.
It's Ethan. Sorry. Yep. I was talking to, I just said to Samter, doesn't Toronto make the most sense for Ohtani? Because he's from Japan. Maybe he's just sick of the press coverage in the U.S. He doesn't care about it. Go to Canada. They're nicer, and you would know better than I do as far as press coverage in Toronto, although I'm from Michigan. But maybe he's just more comfortable there.
Maybe, and I don't know, Nate, but I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Like, you could try to hide. Wherever you go, you're Ohtani. You're like a unicorn. You're one of one. With the Japanese media that covers him on a daily basis as well, there's always going to be a large contingency at home or on the road. And remember, it's 162 games. Half of them are on the road. Everywhere you go, you're not going to be able to hide from the media landscape as well. So I haven't really thought of it that way. But I would not have predicted before this process started Toronto. I thought kind of in the off or right as the season was ending that maybe it was going to be the Giants or the Dodgers, and maybe it'll still end up being. But it does seem like right now the Blue Jays are the hot team, and the Blue Jays are the expected team from the very little that we know. All righty, Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Come on back with a little news brief. Also delve into the Eagles-Cowboys matchup as well. But first up with the latest CBS Sports Radio update, here is the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Reports that Shohei Ohtani is heading to Toronto, but still no official word as to where or when he is going to sign. Trevor Lawrence has been dealing with a high ankle sprain all week, and as of now, there's no definitive word on his status. The Jaguars will make the call on Sunday whether Lawrence starts against the Browns or not. Mike McCarthy said he expects to be on the field Sunday night when his Cowboys meet the Eagles. McCarthy had appendicitis earlier in the week. Jonathan Taylor is yet to return from a thumb injury, and it won't be this weekend as the Colts have ruled out their running back Isaiah Pacheco. The Chiefs also out with a shoulder injury, but Justin Jefferson back for the Vikings after missing a significant period with a hamstring injury. Tulane has reportedly reached agreement with Troy's John Summerall to become the next head coach of the Green Wave, getting a 6-year deal. He went 23-4 the last 2 years with a pair of Sun Belt titles. The finals of the first in-season tournament takes place tomorrow. For tonight, it's a full schedule for everyone not in Vegas. Among that group, the Eastern and Western Conference leaders. The Celtics host the Knicks, looking to continue their perfect start at home, while the Timberwolves are in Memphis going for their 6th in a row and 17th win of the season. I'm Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio's Hick and Night is your go-to December destination for the best sports talk on the radio. Don't forget, we're live 24/7 on social media, YouTube, SiriusXM Channel 158, and the free Odyssey app.
Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Let's take a look at who's got home field advantage this weekend in our NCAA football preview, sponsored by Fairfield by Marriott. Fairfield by Marriott is the official hotel partner of the NCAA with over 1,000 locations around the country. You'll always have the home field advantage. Visit fairfield.com to book your stay. And as much as I would love to read the rest of this read, Samter, it's a preview of Alabama and Georgia in the binder. All righty. The greatest rivalry in sports commences tomorrow with the 124th playing of the Army-Navy game at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. Army last year in double OT, and 5 of the last 7 have been decided by a single possession. So there we go. The Fairfield by Marriott. Look ahead for this weekend in college football, one of the great displays of a rivalry between Army and Navy. And, right, you have the pageantry of that game and just how cool it is. Like, right, Carlos, you know, better for, instead of me to say, for you to say, just with Army, Navy, and the emotions and how cool of an environment it is, and then you have the whole world watching coming up tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, because as much as I want to say go Army, beat Navy 1,000 times, at the end of the day, America's the winner.
Yeah, and it's respect for both sides, and you come together after the game after what is an absolute battle on the field. All righty, Sean McDermott on the report about his 9/11 comments. This is from the Ty Dunne article. Ty Dunne joined us earlier in the show when he used 9/11 and the communication of the terrorists as kind of a message to his team how they should communicate the right way. Still crazy.
Know who I am, know how I try and do things. You know, it was clearly an attack on my character, and that's important to me, very important. As much, if not more, very clearly more than wins and losses. Wins and losses are important. Again, doesn't mean that I've been perfect. No one's perfect. Doesn't mean that I haven't been without flaw. But to me, it's most important that I handle this job the right way.
Him using the attack of my character. When you're let me say this in a nice way. It's a Friday. I'm feeling good. When you are the dope, that's probably the nicest way I could say it. That use the communication skills of terrorists that killed many innocent lives to try to portray that message to your team, how you should communicate in a perfect way and all work together. Yeah, I don't think that's an attack on your character. It's just showing how stupid you were in that moment. Now, there was other things in the article. I understand that. It's not just one incident. But even as Ty Dunne has said, there is good mentioned about Sean McDermott as well. So I don't love, it's the attack on my character. And like, he spoke twice now about this. And it's like, yesterday it was more so, okay, yeah, it was true with the 9/11 thing. And then today it was more of the defense. I don't know. It does not sit well with me.
And here's the thing. I don't know if the article, and I don't think Ty's that guy. I've known Ty for a long time, Ty Dunne.
You respect the reporter.
Respectable. I don't think he wrote the piece in order to attack his character and to take him down. However, when you do investigative journalism and you find out information and that information is negative, I mean, maybe it comes off as an attack, but it's just the reality. This is just what the reporting shows.
The truth.
I know Ty Dunne, he didn't go into it trying to take down Sean McDermott. He just tried to figure out what's going on with Sean McDermott, and all the stuff not all, but a lot of the stuff he was getting back was negative. And so, like, to call it an attack is just, it's a wrong way to look at it, right? You have to look at it and be like, maybe I need to fix some things about myself if all these former players and people within the organization are saying these things about me.
Yeah, and it's not as if Sean McDermott is like the worst human being to ever walk the planet. Like, the guy's been a good football coach. You haven't heard a ton of negativity surrounding him in the past. But the thing that I struggle with here is that, yeah, I'm not saying he should like it. No one's going to like this article if it's written about them, but it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of truth in that article. Minkah Fitzpatrick, great player for the Steelers, one of their leaders. He rips his entitled teammates after another Steelers loss.
In order to see fruit, you got to toil for it. I think too many people don't want to toil for it. They just want to walk out here and think that they're going to make plays and think that they're going to perform at a high level. I think we need to have more people that want to work for it and not expect it to be handed to them, because this is the NFL. Nothing's handed to you. You got to earn everything. And I think that, dudes just think that because they're wearing the black and gold that they're going to win games. And I think we need to check their mentality and make people realize that they got to earn that mentality, and they got to earn every single blade of grass, every single splash play, and every single rep that they get out there. They got to earn it.
So sometimes athletes just say things to say things. Like, there's a lot of cliche in there. And then you could say, okay, is he just addressing the team in general, or is there a specific person there? And Samter said it in my ear, and I was fully thinking the same thing. When I hear that, it kind of just screams he's talking about George Pickens, who is so accomplished from what he did in college. But in the NFL, he really hasn't done much. And he acts as if he's Jerry Rice or he's Terrell Owens or Randy Moss. And he's like one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. Now, George Pickens' frustrations could be put in the right place. And he could maybe, you should be frustrated when you're not getting the ball and the team's not playing well. But when this has become like a weekly issue now with George Pickens, can you go do something on the field first? So maybe that's some of the entitlement coming from Georgia where you win, where maybe that's what Minkah Fitzpatrick is talking about and aiming that message to George Pickens. Here is Nick Bosa of the 49ers making it known that they have figured out how to stop Jalen Hurts.
You see it on tape, though, and then obviously we put the blueprint out there. Hopefully Cowboys watch the tape. We made Jalen stay in the pocket and escape outside instead of those B gaps, and paid off. Because Jalen's looking at the rush every play. So, yeah, you just have to be disciplined and not give him that quick escape route where he could get to his guys quick.
And I also saw that, Greg Cosell put out a piece that he's given up on the plays too early and trying to leave the pocket too early as well. Cowboys have a good defense. Not a great defense, but a good defense. And we know they have one of the best guys that can get to the quarterback in the league in Micah Parsons. Makes for a fun matchup on Sunday. I think the Eagles are going to win because it's what the Cowboys usually do. They dominate the bad teams, but then they go up against the good teams. Either they have a good showing, they don't find a way to get the win at the end of the game. But there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the Dallas Cowboys to get the job done. So we talked about Oklahoma's Dillon Gabriel entering the transfer portal, right? Jackson Arnold is also the highly rated recruit who's been there for a year at Oklahoma. And Brent Venables made a little comment on Dillon Gabriel entering the transfer portal.
It didn't have anything to do with Jackson. I think Dillon had every intention to go to the NFL. In his mind, this was going to be his last season. He's going to have a great year, put himself in position to go, chase his dreams, in the NFL. And quite frankly, we did plan to, again, go into the 24 season without Dillon Gabriel. Dillon knows, certainly, he was more than welcome to stay and continue to compete and be, the quarterback at the University of Oklahoma.
So, Samter, I think we got our answer. This was Greg Gabriel goes in there, transfers in, and says, I'm going to play for you guys. Then I'm going to go off to the NFL. So Oklahoma has to get their next guy ready and their next guy up. And Jackson Arnold, right, highly recruited, may have shown them some things behind the scenes. They feel like he's ready to play. So they probably just wanted competition. And I understand from Dillon Gabriel's side, yeah, you should have confidence in yourself. I'll beat out Jackson Arnold. But if you don't get that assurance that you're going to be the starter, and right, this is your last year, you want to go elsewhere. And that's what I think that this ultimately came down to, because he wanted to know for sure that he was going to start somewhere. So it's not like a reverse of the Spencer Sanders situation where, in this case, he'd be staying, but like Spencer Sanders left, and then you didn't hear from him last year because Jackson Dart beat him out at Ole Miss. Marvin Harrison Jr. was asked about if he's entering the NFL draft.
Yeah, I'm still undecided. You guys know, coming into this year, I wanted to beat the team North and win a Big Ten championship, and obviously I did not do that this year. So I think it's a great motive to come back if that's what I decide to do. Because that's something I definitely wanted to do in my Ohio State career, and not being done that yet definitely opens the door for me to come back. But undecided.
Yeah, he's going pro. I don't think anyone actually believes it. It's like when Caleb Williams is the same thing. Does anyone actually think he's going back to USC? Now, Samter, let me just run this by you. This could be a little bit of a hot take, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. So Ohio State, all throughout the year, and especially leading up to the Michigan game, they X out the M's, and they refer to Michigan as that school up north. When you lost 3 years in a row, I think you need to pipe down on putting X's through the M's and also still referring to them like in a disrespectful name as like, oh, that team up north, I can't say Michigan. They beat you the last 3 years. Like, I don't know. It's a little cocky.
I'm going to be honest. I think it's the exact opposite.
What, you got dial up there?
No. I'm going to be honest. I think it's the opposite. I think that when you're winning, right, it's kind of petty to cross out the M's because you're like winning, right? Like as a Yankee fan, we don't care about the Mets But the Mets fans get
But
very
at least you have a
pissed
leg
about
to
Yankee
stand
fans.
on. You're winning. Now you're losing.
Right, but
I
when
think it
you're
makes you look
losing,
weak.
but when you're losing, you hate the guy who keeps beating you, so you want to cross out their name. I get that. That's like the anger. Like, we want to beat these guys who keep beating us. When you're the ones winning, you don't care about crossing out the M's. Why would I cross out the M's? Like, we keep crushing these guys. They mean nothing to us.
Yeah.
Crossing out the M's shows them that they matter. They don't matter.
I think it's very minor league when you do it when you've lost 3 years in a row. I think you need to pipe down on some of the that team up north and putting the X's through Michigan. That's just me. Just me. Maybe Michael Fry has a different opinion. Big Ohio State fan that listens to this show. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Come on back. We got a few questions. We got a few answers. We do this every Monday and Friday on the show. We call it Onside, Offside. Zach Gelb Show, CBS Sports Radio. Coming on back after these short messages.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
All right, and away we go. Our number 3 of our radio program on this Football Friday. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight. Going to stop by 20 minutes from now. We'll do a little head-to-head NFL picks. 3 games in the NFL this weekend, 3 spreads. We got you covered. But first up, we do this segment every Monday and Friday on the show. Onside, offside. Santa's got a few questions for me. I got a few answers for me. And Carlos with the K, my main man, Carlos Ortiz. Hit it!
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb on CBS Sports Radio.
What do we got cooking today, Samter?
All right, well, right now, nobody knows who's starting for either the Jags or the Browns in their key AFC matchup on Sunday. Jacksonville hopes Trevor Lawrence can go, while the Browns are deciding between Joe Flacco and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Onside, offside. The Jags need this win more than the Browns.
Now, I did see some video today, and Trevor Lawrence is questionable for Sunday's game, but with a high ankle sprain. He is on the practice field, and he's dropping back. He's bouncing around, kind of throwing that football. So maybe he ends up playing this week. But to answer your question, I am going to go offside here when you say the Jags need this win more than the Browns, because it's like, yes, the Jaguars, they have a 1-game cushion right now because they have 8 wins and the teams behind them have 7 wins inside the division. And after this weekend, the Colts may have 8 and the Texans may have 8. But you get all even after this weekend, and then Trevor comes back fully healthy, you could still win that division. The Browns lose this game this weekend, especially after the Steelers losing. Like, you have some separation for that second spot in the AFC North, and you don't have an automatic spot in with the division because the Ravens are going to win the division. And when Browns lose this game, they go to 7-6. Kind of feel the way that you do about the Steelers today, where it's like, uh-oh, you have this great defense, but you got nothing on offense, and you're probably trending towards not making the playoffs. So when you ask me the Jags need this win more than the Browns, I will go offside.
Offsides. Now, the 6-6 Broncos take on the 5-7 Chargers in L.A. on Sunday, with Denver just a half game back of the final playoff spot.
This is going to be a sloppy game. Like, this is going to be a game. I feel good about saying that this is going to be a good game in terms of the final score will be close and competitive. But I do feel as if you're going to walk away from this game kind of how a 5-year-old may feel walking away from the dinner table after having to eat like asparagus and Brussels sprouts. Like, there's going to be a fight. It's going to be ugly. There's going to be a lot of crying. And they'll walk away because they got like a good dessert at the end or something. But it's not going to be a pretty scene is what I'm saying.
Okay, that makes sense. A little bit of a food fight with a delicious dessert, so you walk away with a smile on your face, but you're like, man, that wasn't worth the squeeze.
Like your baby girl is what, turning 1 soon, right?
1 on Tuesday.
But I feel like babies eat everything, right?
Yes and no. She's picky, but babies love what they love, and then they'll just kind of put whatever they can in their mouth, and then if they really don't like it, they'll spit it out.
But she's not at like the age where she'll be like, bleep you or something like that when she doesn't like something, or like, shut up, which like a 6 or 7-year-old may say, or throw a temper tantrum if you try to serve them like Brussels sprouts or asparagus.
Yeah, at this point, she doesn't like something. She says, mama, dada, baba.
Yeah. And Samter goes, oh, cute kid, whatever the kid says.
Now, Denver just snapped their 5-game win streak with the loss last week against the Texans. Well, the Chargers broke their 3-game losing streak with a win. Now, onside, offside, you have more faith in the Broncos over the next 2 years than the Chargers. Now, I know a lot has to do with the Chargers' next head coach because it won't be Brandon Staley, we don't think, but just roster development and what this team is and what you think they can be. More faith in the Broncos moving forward than the Chargers.
A lot of people in Denver, they don't like when I say this, but I do have more faith in the Chargers because I'm still trying to figure out, can Sean and Russell Wilson together be great? They've displayed they can be good. And I still think that roster has a long ways to go, where I love the secondary and the secondary pieces for the Denver Broncos, but I still think they have a lot of development and they need to bring in new players to put around Russell Wilson. Where the Chargers, I think it's as simple as you get a new competent coach in there, and I think that will be an attractive job. Like Sean Payton wanted to go there, and the Chargers just wouldn't want to get rid of Brandon Staley. He was on Fox all the time last year, praising the Chargers left and right. You don't need to put 2 and 2 together to kind of figure out where he wanted to go last year. But I love Herbert. I love the talent around Herbert on both sides of the ball. I really do believe everyone did not believe in Brandon Staley. They tried to put up that front publicly that they did. And this season, you're kind of seeing the players realize, we're checking out because this coach just doesn't know what he's doing. So I will still go with the more talented roster, and that's the Chargers, even though the Broncos have the stability right now with the head coach of Sean Payton. So when you ask me, you have more faith in the Broncos over the Chargers the next 2 years, I will say offside.
Offside. Now, the Rams head to Baltimore to face the AFC's #1 seed in the Ravens, but Sean McVay's squad is riding a 3-game win streak. The Rams have the second youngest roster in the NFL, which is surprising when I looked that up because you think of all the old heads that are there, despite the vets like, Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp.
And they really had no draft picks throughout the years.
Yeah. But
remember when Les Snead said, F
roster.
those draft picks?
Yeah, man. They have a young roster. My boy, Puka Nacua.
Now he's your boy?
He's my boy. We go way back, man. Me and Puka.
Puka Nacua and
Yeah, I remember
Samter?
we used to be on the slide together and like on the swing set. Yeah, playing freeze tag in the yard.
Your baby may take a Puka Nacua here and there, and you got to change the diaper. But come on, Samter has gone from a Jet fan to a Chief fan to then also being boys of Puka Nacua.
I could be a Chiefs fan and a Puka Nacua fan. I just like the name and I like his style.
My father and my dad's best friend, who I basically call my uncle, Uncle Neil, they loved Deuce Staley when he played for the Eagles. And my uncle Neil would always be like, I have to go drop a Deuce Staley. So that's where I kind of had the Puka Nacua reference as well.
So onside, offside, the Rams still can build a championship quality roster around Matthew Stafford at quarterback.
Playoff team, yes. Championship roster, no. And that's why I go offside, because I don't know how much longer Stafford's going to play with all these injuries. And Aaron Donald, right, even though he's embracing playing longer now, 2 years before that, 1 foot in, 1 foot out when it comes to retirement. I like Puka Nacua a lot. And we'll see, like, I like Cooper Kupp as well, but it's like, I don't know, the rest of the team, I think that team won a Super Bowl, and now it's okay. Can you be sustainable moving forward? But I don't think it's going to get back to championship form. And also the coach, I know he's there now, but when is he going off the TV before he wants an easier lifestyle and then return in like 6 or 7 years later? So when you say the Rams can still build a championship roster around Matthew Stafford, I will go offside.
Offside.
Now, despite the drama around Sean McDermott and his ridiculous comments from 2019, the
Boo
Bills,
that man! Boo!
Oh, he'll get booed. The Bills have a huge game in KC against the Chiefs.
By the way, it's kind of tough for Sean McDermott now. How do you give a speech ever again to the team? Like, I know that this happened in 2019, and he's given a lot of speeches since then. But now, since everyone knows you're the guy that used 9/11 as a part of your speech and the terrorists in 9/11 and their communication skills, and that's how you tried to motivate your team, I almost feel as if you're banned from giving speeches ever again.
I mean, that's tough to not give a speech ever again.
Like, you may need to get a speech coach. Like, you know how you have a hold me back coach for some of the crazy coaches? You may need to get a motivational coach. I don't want to go with that creep Jack Easterby, who was like the character coach in New England and then winds up running the Houston Texans. But you may need someone like that is a motivational speaker. And McDermott just says, this is what I want to say. And then there's a checks and balances in case if he starts like going through other terrible moments in history that he wants to use as motivation to get his team fired up. And you have that person in the checks and balance world deliver the speech as well. That'd be my advice to Sean McDermott, unsolicited.
And listen, after 5 more weeks, it might not matter anyway with him in Buffalo. Well,
I think he's back. He should be fired, but they love him there because Ty Dunne is right. The Pegula family operates in fear of what the Bills used to be. And I know, like, since they took over, they've been very successful, but I think they are fine with just being good, and some people are fine with just being good, and they're afraid to make the changes to try to become great in the NFL.
Well, so the Bills, obviously, we know they're having a down year at 6-6, but their offense is 4th in the NFL in yards, 5th in points, while the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes are 8th and 11th in those same categories. So onside, offside, you have more faith in Josh Allen and the Bills' offense right now than Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense.
You mean just for this Sunday?
No, for this season. Right now, like, we're just talking about, for this season, Mahomes and the troubles they're having at wide receiver and all the other smaller issues at running back, and that the offense is not really clicking.
Yeah.
You have more faith in the Bills' offense than the Chiefs' offense.
It's weird. I still could see the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl. I don't even think the Bills are going to make the playoffs. But when you talk about just the offense, yeah, I have more confidence on sides in the Bills' offense than Mahomes in the Chiefs' offense. Now, I'm not saying Allen's better than Mahomes, but Allen is still a damn good quarterback. And now he's getting back Dawson Knox. He has Dalton Kincaid. We know he has Stephon Diggs, a top 5-10 receiver in the sport. You got Gabe Davis as well. And on Kansas City, you got Travis Kelce, who's not even having his best season. But then, all right, Isaiah Pacheco's out this weekend. And then after that, it's like, humana. That's what it is with the Chiefs. So, yeah, I do trust the Bills' offense more than Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense right now on sides. Good question.
I know. I wrote it. The 7-5 Colts.
Doesn't even see. That's typical Sampson. Carlos, let me just try something with you. Carlos, you're doing a great job today. Great question that you just asked me. What would your response be?
Thanks.
There we go. You know,
I need to hyperextend my arm, pat myself on the back.
I don't have to pat myself on the back. He patted it for me. I'm just kind of.
We'll give Samter a belly rub. Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?
I'm a very good boy. I'm scratching my
We'll
head.
give you some of those spicy nuts that are in the newsroom.
Those are my spicy nuts. Those are my spicy nuts. The 7-5 Colts head to Cincy to take on the 6-6 Bengals and back with quarterback Jake Browning, who's coming off a 354-yard, 2-touchdown day in their win over Jacksonville. Onside, offside, the Bengals can still make the playoffs with Jake Browning under center.
On sides, and here's why. I'm not saying Jake Browning is the guy or the dude, but you have a great receiver in Jamar Chase and other good receivers when healthy in T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. You have a team that has a lot of, I haven't won a championship, but they know what it's like to play in the big games, conference championship games, and then also a Super Bowl. And you have maybe the most underrated part of that team, the defense, continuing to be a strength the last 3 years where, we all talk about Burrow and Chase, but that defense has been phenomenal the last 2 to 3 years under Lou Anarumo. So in a year where, okay, you're 6-6, you go get 3 to 4 more wins, that puts you in the possibility of if you can make the playoffs. Now, real quickly, let me just pull up the Bengals schedule here so we can look at the entirety of the schedule the rest of the way. They play the Colts this weekend, 50-50 game. Minnesota, 50-50 game. They can beat Pittsburgh. Tough game against Kansas City, and then you play Cleveland. Like, there's not a game on the schedule outside of Kansas City because you don't have Burrow that they can't win. Like, they could win those. I'm not saying they're going to win all those games, but they could win Indianapolis, Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and also Cleveland.
All right, we got a couple more, and the Steelers lost last night on Thursday Night Football. We touched on this briefly throughout the show. Wideout George Pickens was seen pouting on the bench, getting pissed off in the end zone, and taking a play off on a run that he was actually called out by Herb Street and Al Michaels. Now, onside, offside, the Steelers should bench Pickens until he changes his attitude.
No, I wouldn't, because you have such a problem on offense, even though he is annoyed right now. And I don't know if his passion is even in the right place, because it does seem like it's all about him. Like, if this was just done in a loss, okay, I get it. But he has done this in a win as well, which bothered me a few weeks back, and we talked about this. But I wouldn't bench him because you need him. As much as it sucks, you need him because he's a heck of a player. You got to use him more, and your quarterbacks have been that bad. So, and let's be real, Mike Tomlin has also dealt with a lot worse. He dealt with Antonio Brown. I know Antonio Brown's a great player. Chase Claypool, was also more of a pain than George Pickens as well. And Tomlin usually finds a way to deal with that stuff. And eventually, you got to move on from a player and something like that, and then you get more of the truth that does come out. So when you say the Steelers should bench Pickens until he changes his attitude, I would go offside.
All right, last one. We talked about him as well. Shohei Ohtani expected to make his decision maybe today, maybe this weekend. And finalists include the Dodgers, Angels, Giants, Cubs, and Blue Jays, where apparently he's headed to visit today. Maybe to sign a contract, maybe to have a final meeting. Who knows? The final deal is expected to be upwards of $600 million for the two-way, two-time MVP. Numbers could be closer to $500 million, but who knows? Yeah. It's going to be monstrous. Onside, offside. The Cubs would be the best choice for Shohei Ohtani.
Did Carlos write this question because he's a big Cubs fan?
He did not. But, we've been talking about the Dodgers and the West Coast and the Angels and the Giants for, as long as he's been in the league for. Now, I kind of want something different. Send him somewhere else besides that West Coast. I want to see him in a different program.
Now, in terms of him joining a historical franchise, absolutely. It'd be cool to see him in the outfield of Wrigley Field and all that, even though he probably won't be throwing anywhere this year, and he'll just be a DH and all that stuff. And see him warming up and stuff like that and have catch in the outfield of Wrigley Field. But no, it wouldn't be the best choice. Like, it pains me to say this, but the Dodgers would be. They're such a great team, and they're in on it with Shohei Ohtani. The Giants need a superstar as well, and they've been a good team the last few years, up and down. I know they just got rid of their manager in Gabe Kapler. And the Blue Jays, they have so many talented players, too. Like, that would, even though a lot of people, because we live in America, be like, oh, he's going to Toronto. Oh, my God, why did he pick a team in America? Blah, blah, blah. The Blue Jays would be a phenomenal choice as well. So I think there's other options out there. I would go offsides when you say the Cubs would be the best choice.
Offsides.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We got some picks to get to next on a Football Friday. Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight. He will join us as we will continue our picks competition.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
The Zach Gelb Show is on the air across the nation on CBS Sports Radio. Here's Zach Gelb.
All right, and we continue. This is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. We will now bring on Ryan Horvat off the injured list, out of COVID protocol, joining us back on the show after being sick last week in his weekly spot. BetMGM tonight via BetQL. Some people are saying Horvat wasn't actually sick. He just didn't want to show up, and he didn't want to compete, and he didn't want to do his job and go head-to-head with yours truly. Ryan Horvat, what's happening, my man?
It was like Lincoln Riley a couple weeks ago. Remember he missed a couple days of practice when things were really going south for USC? No, man, this is like, I love my son. I have a 10-year-old son, and I love him to death, but unfortunately, you know, he goes to school with a bunch of other children.
A lot of germs.
Anytime he gets sick, I get sick. And this time it was the big C, which was fine. It was like 3 days. I had this bad head cold, but then I lost my voice. So It was championship week, final college football show of the week, or the season, I should say. Couldn't even do it. It was brutal, but it's good to be back. It's good to see your beautiful face, Zach. I got to admit, though, man, I'm a little depressed today. I'm a Chicago Cub fan, and I thought I'm a wee guy. I thought they had a shot at Shohei Ohtani, and it looks like he's going to end up being a Toronto Blue Jay. So good for the fine folks out in Toronto. Good for the Blue Jay fans, but life just not very fun. As a Cub fan.
So one quick thing before we get to our NFL picks, and we'll key up the music in just a second. From the betting side of things, like where has some of the most money been placed? Like what have been some of the real teams of interest just covering it from the gambling side that you see kind of behind the scenes that were picking up steam before you find out today that he's flying to Toronto and the Blue Jays may actually be that destination.
Yeah, the two top teams pretty much, all offseason have been the Dodgers and then the Chicago Cubs. And then all of a sudden, here comes the Toronto Blue Jays. And what was really telling was this morning when the Blue Jays were the co-favorites, as far as the betting odds to win the World Series. And I was like, all right, somebody has some information. Somebody knows something. So, those were the three teams. But, everybody thought he was going to end up being a Dodger. Maybe the Cubs, maybe the San Francisco Giants.
I thought the Giants, yeah.
Just because they threw all that money at Aaron Judge and missed out on Judge, I thought maybe they would make a similar deal, a bigger deal for Ohtani. But, yeah, I don't think a lot of people expected this. And then Seattle was the other team, especially after All-Star weekend when he said that he spent the last 2 off seasons in Seattle. Obviously, they're building a nice ball club there. But, I was actually shocked.
I have some breaking news for you. I have breaking news on Ohtani right now. Now, consider the source. That's all I'm going to say. Consider the source and the person it's coming from, because this person is wrong a lot. So John Morosi, not the person I'm talking about, he's saying the one that Ohtani's going to Toronto or he's flying there. Yeah. Bob Nightingale is now reporting Shohei Ohtani is not, and not in all capital letters, in Toronto. Ohtani is not on a flight to Toronto. Ohtani is home in Southern California. So we got a reporter feud right now between John Morosi and Bob Nightingale. And if I could play some odds here, Ryan Horvat, right now, I put my money on John.
Yeah. I'm going to go with John as well. What we need is like Ohtani watch. We need a camera following him until he makes this decision. When's the last time? I mean, man, it's been a couple of years. As a Bulls fan, I thought that you go back to that free agent period where it was Dwayne Wade, it was Chris Bosh, and it was LeBron James. Everybody was waiting to see, obviously. It was LeBron James, the decision. That's what Ohtani should have done here, because baseball, I mean, I'm a big baseball fan, but they need to do a better job, obviously, marketing their players. That would have been a great idea.
Yeah, but you're wrong on this. Here's why. I'm fine with the secrecy, because let's be real. You know how the sports world works. As big of a star as Ohtani is, and I love Ohtani, it's really like the only reason why we talk baseball throughout the year on CBS Sports Radio. Yeah. Ohtani's going on a tour, and it's public. Is anyone really talking about that when you have the football season going on and you had all the conference championship games last weekend as well? I think this is us in the media, Horvat, where we're all like talking about what we want to have happen just for more content. And you get all these curmudgeon baseball writers that have changed the way that you're thinking, where they're like, oh, they're not giving me the story. Oh, I'm not able to report and use my sources. And they're all crying right now. That's what this is.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we got so much going on, like you said. We got the college football playoff, people outraged about Florida State.
The midseason tournament, Horvat. Come on, it's a major event. We care so much about it.
Yeah, that's a sour subject. I bet the Bucks last night, and it was looking good for a half. But, yeah, there's a lot going on right now.
All righty, let's cue up the music. Give me my NFL music, please, and we will get to picks. No college, obviously, this week with the conference championship games just ended, and we're awaiting the bowl games. Let's start in the NFL. This is a spread that scares the crap out of me, but I'm not going to look too much in it. It makes no sense. Lions on the road, how they're only a 3-point favorite up against the Bears. I know 2 weeks ago these teams just played. I had the Lions in Survivor, and the Lions were down like 12 with 2 minutes to go or 3 minutes to go, and they pulled a rabbit out of the hat, and they won. Lions -3. It's probably a sucker bet, but I'm a sucker when it comes to gambling, and that's why I lose more than I win. But I don't care. This is a 3-point spread. I cannot trust the Chicago Bears. Give me the Lions laying the 3.
Oh, it is my lucky day because we're going head-to-head right away. This is where I was going to start. I'm going with the Bears. Now, I grabbed the Bears at 3.5, anything over a field goal. At 3 here, we could split, but I kind of want to see the Bears win this game outright, and I don't think that sounds too crazy right now. Like you said, they were up double digits just a couple weeks ago. Probably should have beat Detroit. In Detroit, now you have Jared Goff, who I love Jared Goff in Detroit. We're all big Ben Johnson fans, but now you get Jared Goff on the road You get Jared Goff in the conditions. You're going to have some wind, maybe some rain, hopefully. The weather, it looked like we were going to be in the mid-30s, with some wind. The weather's looking a little bit better right now, but it's still Jared Goff on the road. The Lions are going to want to run the ball. The problem is the Bears' run defense actually top 10, something that nobody's talking about. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you have Justin Fields playing for his job. You have Matt Eberflus coaching for his job. I actually like Chicago at Soldier Field, maybe even to win this game outright, definitely +3. So we'll go head-to-head here.
All righty, I like it. Ryan Horvat with us from BetMGM tonight via BetQL. My next play, it's also probably another one where you look at it and you go, this is too good to be true, and maybe I'll end up being wrong. I know Zach Wilson's coming back for the Jets. That's not a real positive. The Texans right now are 7-5. I know they just lost Tank Dell for the season, but you got C.J. Stroud, who is off to a historical start and is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he's playing some of the best rookie ball that we've ever seen from a quarterback. But more importantly, you got a defense now with the Texans that's starting to get good at the right time. Will Anderson Jr., who joined us earlier in the week, had a breakout performance with 2 sacks. Stingley had the 2 interceptions as well last week. I will trust DeMeco Ryan, C.J. Stroud, and Will Anderson to get the job done up against Robert Saleh, Zach Wilson, but a good Jets defense. It could be close, it could be sloppy, but I like the Texans to win by a touchdown. I only need them to win by 4 points. Give me the Texans laying the 3.5 points.
I'm with you. I like that one as well, and I kind of want the Jets to lose out, and I kind of want Robert Saleh in Green Bay as the defensive coordinator, replacing Joe Barry. You know the relationship with him and Matt LaFleur. I'm just throwing that at the wall.
Wait, now hold on. You're out of your mind. Oh, what are you doing, ayahuasca now all of a sudden? Aaron Rodgers controls if Robert Saleh comes back or not. So let's just say Aaron Rodgers listens and hears everything, is now hearing you talk about Robert Saleh be the defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers next year. Go, Pack, go. Aaron Rodgers just said, oh, no to that. Now you could lock it up. Robert Saleh not going anywhere as the head coach of the Jets. He'll be back next season.
Hey, I'm a Rodgers guy, but look what he's doing to that organization. Alan Lazard, a healthy scratch the last couple of weeks. Randall Cobb hasn't done much.
Bad
Adrian
GM.
Amos hasn't done much. Billy Turner. Who knows? Maybe Nathaniel Hackett will take over as head coach.
Ooh.
All right, I'm gonna go with a chalky favorite here. Okay, I'll go with the Baltimore Ravens. They're 7.5-point favorites. I don't love the number, but I love the matchup. And again, we're gonna have some weather, and we also get John Harbaugh off the bye here. 12-3 with Baltimore off the bye. Ravens, man, I like this Baltimore team a lot. The only problem is, so they lead the NFL in point differential the first 3 quarters of football games, and then they're outside the top 20 in the fourth quarter. They just have to get better closing games. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because they have that run game. They have a really strong defense. But I like this matchup. The Rams have won 3 straight, but look who they beat. A beat-up Browns team. They beat the Seahawks, and Geno got knocked out of that game. They beat the Cardinals. And now you have the Ravens and their defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, with 14 days to prepare for this offense. Probably going to play a little bit more man coverage. It's Stafford on the road. That offensive line, give me Baltimore laying the 7.5.
Yeah, that's a savvy pick because I think a lot of people are going to look at that like Seattle or Detroit a few weeks back when they were going to Baltimore. And it's like, oh, you have a solid team in the Rams, 6.5, 7.5 points. They're begging you to take the Ravens plus the points, and it does kind of feel like the Rams are going to lose that game by 10 points. I like that play by Ryan Horvat. All right, and finally, I don't like betting against this man, and when I only need him to win by 2 points, I should probably pick him, but Isaiah Pacheco is now out, Drew Tranquill is now out, Byron Cook is now out, Donovan Smith is out as well. Everyone's slamming the Bills this week, deservedly so. Coming off the loss, coming off the bye week. You had McDermott and the dumb quote about 9/11 going viral from 2019. There's a lot of distractions for the Bills. It doesn't make a lot of sense to pick the Bills, but the Chiefs' offense has not been good this year. We know the Bills could put up points, and a lot of people probably going to lay the point with the Chiefs at home. I like the Bills on the money line, but in this case of what we do, I will take Buffalo plus the 1 point, but they'll win the game outright.
All right, since I took a chalky favorite, now I have to take the ugliest of all ugly dogs this weekend, and I'm going to have to go with the New York Giants. I wanted a 7. It's at 6.5, going against Green Bay here. So it's going to be one of the 2 primetime Monday night games. I hate the 2 back-to-back games, the doubleheader, I should say. So I want to call it a standalone game. For the Giants, this is pretty much their Super Bowl, right? Like, the goal for the Giants should be lose out and get your quarterback in the future because it's not Daniel Jones. But Tommy DeVito right now is playing with house money. Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, we saw this matchup last year with Aaron Rodgers. It was a London game, October 9th, and the Giants won that game outright because Brian Daboll actually outcoached Matt LaFleur. I think the Packers win this game, but, the look-ahead line was 2.5. Now we're out to 6.5, and I know Green Bay's looked good the last couple weeks, but now we're asking them to win by margin, win by a full touchdown on the road. I'm actually going to take the points with the Giants. I mean, what else do they have to play for the rest of the season after this game when it's prime time and everybody's going to watch? So I'll take the points there with New York, 6.5.
So you're all in on the Tommy Cutlets. That's what you're telling me.
I love him. Oh, yeah. He's one of the best stories in the NFL right now.
All righty, here are the picks this week. Horvat's taking the Giants plus 6.5, the Ravens laying 7.5, and the Bears plus 3. Yours truly goes with the Lions laying 3, the Texans laying 3.5, and the Bills winning the game outright at plus 1. One more thing I'll ask you. Just a quick question here, because you like sloppy, ugly games like you just described with the Giants and the Packers.
Yeah.
What about the Panthers and the Saints this week? The Saints are a 6-point favorite. We have no clue what the status of Derek Carr is going to be. Do you plus the points with the Panthers this week and just think this will be somehow a 3-point game, even though the spread is Saints minus 6 points?
All right, so the Panthers right now are on my good side because they actually covered the number. But it was not comfortable, and they are not, it's not fun betting on the Panthers. Man.
No.
It's not only that they struggled to score points, get on the board, but they struggled to cross the 50-yard line, like to get into the red zone. So it's ugly, but I would only bet Carolina in this spot. Right now, I'm just not impressed with the Saints. I actually think it might be an upgrade if Carr can't go in this game. He hasn't been very good this season. The defense is fine. I like Chris Olave, but they've been a huge letdown. I mean, they were huge favorites, minus 165, minus 175, I believe, to win the NFC South. Now they have the 3rd best odds, which is crazy to see.
By the way, I like what you just did there. David Carr earlier this week was saying, Jalen Hurts should be benched for Marcus Mariota. So you go after Carr's brother, and we know the Carr family is very sensitive, and you're like, play Jameis Winston over Derek Carr. I like that. That's a savvy move by you.
I just, I love a good hot take. I thought that one was a little bit too hot, right? Jalen's not playing perfect football right now, but he's clearly the better option than Marcus Mariota in the year 2023, Zach. But, yeah, man, I mean, Carr hasn't looked very good this season. In fact, it's like he's like the king of the stat padding in the fourth quarter, the dinking and dunking.
Yeah, he's overrated.
They've been a huge letdown, man. But Carolina, not a good football team. But I would take the points with them. Anything over 4.5, I do like the Panthers.
He is Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight via BetQL. I may have to send you some bubble wrap or get you a hazmat suit because I can't have you keep on getting sick, all right?
I promise that's the last time.
No, well, we won't have Horvat next week, that's for sure. He's definitely getting sick. He's playing a crazy game there. There he is, Ryan Horvat from BetMGM tonight. Make sure you listen to him each and every day via BetQL. All righty, we'll wrap up shop next. Update time first. Here he is, the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
CBS Sports Radio. Sports Flash.
Well, the Jaguars are holding out hope that Trevor Lawrence will be able to start Sunday when they will make the decision on his status, while Justin Jefferson will be back for the Vikings, finally off the injury report. The Chiefs will be without Isaiah Pacheco because of a shoulder injury, and Colts running back Jonathan Taylor remains out due to his injured thumb. Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy feeling good after appendicitis earlier in the week and expects to be on the sideline Sunday night calling plays. Tulane has found its new head coach, reportedly agreeing to a 6-year deal with Troy's John Summerall to replace Willie Fritz. Summerall won a pair of Sun Belt titles the last 2 years, going 23-4. The Timberwolves have the most wins in the NBA with 16 and go for their 6th in a row tonight in Memphis. While in the East, the Celtics take on the Knicks, looking for their 10th straight home win to open the season. They've also taken the previous 2 meetings against New York, while the defending champs go for win number 15. Denver hosts Houston. No word from Shohei Ohtani yet, despite reports that a decision was imminent, as well as an announcement. Another report that he was already on his way to Toronto, which apparently is not the case, according to other reports. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all live, all the time. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide on CBS Sports Radio. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
We'll get to our Ask the Pros question in just a second. It is the Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. 855-212-4CBS. 855-212-4227. Let's go to Michael in Ohio next up on CBS Sports Radio. Mike, my main man, what's happening?
What's going on, Zach? How are you?
No, I'm doing sensational. So what, you're annoyed at me? What's going on here?
No, first off, I want to congratulate you. That was a great win in the horseshoe. You guys made the plays when you needed to make the plays. You didn't drop interceptions. You did what you had to do. First win in the horseshoe since, I think, 2000. That was a great win for them. But why are you so annoyed with the N crossing out? We've been doing that forever.
Yeah, but like when you lose 3 straight and Michigan has – 2 out of those 3 years dominated you. And this year it being so personal with it being on the line, and then you lose again. I don't know. I kind of think it's like minor league. I kind of think it's weak sauce.
I hear Bush League. I hear you. But, I mean, from 2012 to 2019, we beat Michigan 8 times in a row. We still did it.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, when Michigan didn't want to come to the horseshoe to play Justin Fields, C.J. Stroud, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, it probably would have been 9 in a row. But
I don't know.
We've been doing it.
Put it this
way. You know
way.
what? In 2016, our governor, John Kasich, the week of Michigan, he crossed out all the M's on his. He's the governor.
But now we're following what politicians do? Come on.
Yeah,
what are we doing, Mike?
Now, Zach.
He's just sucking up to get your vote. We know what he was doing back in the day. Whenever politicians interject themselves in sports, it always goes the wrong way. Like there was a politician, he was either I forget what his title was, Menino, in Boston, and he would mayor of Boston. He would always get it wrong. All the time. He would call Vince Wilfork like Vince Wolfspoon or something like that.
The best was when he said that Veritek kicked the game-winning field goal for the Patriots.
Yeah, or he would call Gronk.
Yeah.
He would call Gronk honk.
Gonk.
Yeah.
He never got it right. So come on. But
now, I'm
telling you, you're
guy.
down and out. You are upset. You are wounded from what Michigan has done to your program once again. All I'm saying is, maybe if you start showing a little bit more respect and not just calling them that team up north and not crossing out the great M, you guys would have some good karma come your way in the football world.
Saying, but let me get your opinion on this. What are you going to say if Cam Ward transfers to Ohio State and Marvin Harrison comes back and Emeka Ibuka comes back?
Oh, come on.
We have the number one player in the country.
Are you sniffing glue? Are you sniffing glue again? Marvin Harrison Jr. ain't coming back.
You don't think so?
No, 0% chance. He's the best. I love Marvin Harrison Jr.
I do too.
He may be the best player in this draft. He is definitely, though, the best non-quarterback in this draft. And you know what? I'm a fair man. See, unlike you, who it's just Buckeye this, Buckeye that, Gelb's an idiot, Gelb's, just slamming the Buckeyes.
You're smart. You're a very smart guy.
I'm teasing with you. I'm teasing with you. But I predicted the other day in a tweet that has gone viral that Cam Ward is going to the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think I think that would be a good move for Ryan Day, and we'll see how he'll put up good stats with the quarterback and still won't be able to beat Michigan. What he did with C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud had 40-something touchdowns twice, and he couldn't beat Michigan. That's on the coach. That's on Ryan Day.
You're exactly right.
All righty, Michael.
You're exactly right. Well, I'll see you in the horseshoe this year because we have cell phone reception in Columbus.
You think I'm going there?
Oh, you're not going to come down there? I
don't know. Maybe. Potentially. I wouldn't rule it out. But I can't commit that far in advance.
I'll buy your ticket. You can sit with me.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I got free tickets this year. But, you know what? I would definitely be down to potentially make a trip. But I have not got to Thanksgiving weekend yet of next year. You know, maybe you want to call back into the summer and get me to commit to that. That could be a possibility. But good job. I like Mike. Mike does a very good job whenever he calls the show and interacts on the YouTube chat. It's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. We have a question from Pat Boyle's father. Now, not actually Pat Boyle's biological father, but just a Twitter account, Pat Boyle's father. What the heck were the Patriots thinking last night? I have never been so annoyed off a win. Hashtag Ask the Pros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. He's right. What were the Patriots thinking? I wanted to tank. Tank, and more tank. Because I wanted the best draft pick possible. But with that being said, it always goes to my point. We may say owners are trying to tank, but players aren't. And Belichick is still, as much as people want to dance on his grave this season, capable of winning any game in the NFL through his defense. And the Steelers had no offense, and they got a little jolt from Bailey Zappi, and away you go. The Patriots won the game last night, but I was not a fan of that victory, even though I am a Patriot fan. And it's also, like, Samter, you've probably been in this position before because you used to root for the Jets, where the team has been so lethargic and so putrid, and losing is better. But naturally, as a fan, like, you watch the game, you still see your team during those 60 minutes. You forget about the tanking. But last night, those were weird emotions because, oh, wow, the Patriots offense is finally doing something. And you know that it's going to end up hurting you in the long run because you want the best draft position possible.
Yeah, I find that in fantasy sports also. Sometimes I find myself rooting for my team or against my team when I want them to tank and or win. Yeah. Because, like, I have the other guy, Gronk is going against the Jets. Yeah, it's tough. But listen, at the end of the day, you want what's best for your favorite team. And if what's best for your favorite team is to lose and get a top 2 draft pick, that's not rooting against your team. You're just rooting for a different type of result. So I'm okay with it. And it's tough when you get caught up in the moment and you see your team scoring 21 points when you and I thought the score would be 9-3, or at least I thought the score would be 9-3 yesterday.
Yeah.
But, you find yourself in moments of weakness and you give up on it.
Now, I'm not a great gambler, but you know what I should start doing? Anytime Santa says, no way, like, are you crazy? Are you stupid? We should just go the other way. Because yesterday when I was like 14-3 and everyone in America was saying, oh, under, 30.5, under. I've done gambling enough. I have been able to gamble long enough in my life where I should have known that was the easiest over ever. Like, that was definitely going to be an over.
And the craziest thing is, Vegas is always 3 steps ahead of us, right? So when they put the over-under at 30 and we're like, the Patriots haven't scored more than 10 points. They haven't given up more than 10 points in 3 straight games. Plus, they're going against Trubisky. Plus, that Steelers defense. There's no way either of these teams are going to score points. What we saw last night was shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking to me.
And they got all these suckers like me to do parlays up, under, and anytime defensive touchdown for the Steelers. Lock of the century. Oh, we're all going to be rich at almost plus 2,000. Wrong on both.
And I thought of those two things, the more likely scenario was going to be the under as opposed to the anytime Steelers touchdown. Yeah. I'll be honest.
All righty. It is Zach Gelb Show on CBS Sports Radio. I will be at the Heisman Trophy presentation tomorrow. So if you want to follow along on social media at Zach Gelb, I'll get you some behind-the-scenes content.
Can you interview somebody to make sure you're in the next documentary as well?
Oh, like what I did with Manti Te'o when he was talking to me about his girlfriend that never actually died or existed? Potentially. But the 4 finalists are Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. We all know Marvin Harrison Jr., as long as he is healthy, is going to be a stud in the NFL. I do not think Bo Nix is going to be a good pro quarterback. I think Michael Penix Jr. can be serviceable, but the guy that I think is not getting enough love is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels probably going to win the Heisman Trophy tomorrow. He's the odds-on favorite. What he did from a passing standpoint is sensational, but then he also had 1,100 rushing yards. And in this age of wanting to have mobility at your quarterback position, plus he does have a lot of experience going back to when he was at Arizona State as well. Jaden Daniels is someone that we've been caught up in Caleb Williams and Drake May, and it's been Caleb Williams and Drake May. Who's the best quarterback in the country? I agree with Kirk Herbstreit earlier today, did talk about how, on the Pat McAfee show, how Jaden Daniels may be the most slept-on prospect and could be the biggest steal of the draft. And as like a Patriot fan, I kind of looked at it as, yeah, if you get Caleb Williams the number 1 overall pick, you're going to take him. That's what you're going to do. But maybe you bring back Belichick, you take Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2 or 3, and then with that early second-round pick, maybe Jaden Daniels is still there, or you use that to move back up into like the 20 or in the back end of the first round, and you get Jaden Daniels as well. So something I thought of. But I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a really good pro, and excited to attend the Heisman Trophy for another year coming up tomorrow. So have a great weekend, everybody. Appreciate you listening all throughout the week. I'll be on Eye on Football on Sunday for 8 hours. Carlos Ortiz will be joining me as well on Eye on Football, as he does each and every week, producing the extravaganza starting at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And then we'll be back on Monday to recap all the craziness from the Heisman Trophy, Army, Navy. Good luck to both those fine institutions. And then also, we will be back recapping another week in the National Football League with 2 Monday Night Football games to preview. Talk to you at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on Monday. Everybody, we out. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. Peace.